All right, good evening. We're on the air. It is November 16th, 2018, Friday night again. Glad it's Friday, as always. And so I hope we'll get a good crowd of people that did something fun this week that we can all talk about. And as usual, the links are in the usual places. If you're a member of the Stunthangar control line forums, then the link is in the At the Bench thread that you can click and come in here live with your microphone and camera. Or if you prefer, you can just go to the Stunthangar, that's 2 words, channel on YouTube and watch us. It'll be right on the front page, and there's a chat box that you can use there to text chat with us, and I'll try to include your conversations into our live video show. I apologize for the crowd that was here on Monday night. I couldn't keep up with the YouTube chat so much, and I just kind of let y'all chat amongst yourselves without bringing it over here. Some of it was relevant to our conversation. I do the best I can, but you know, tonight, if I'm on my game, I'll keep integrating the YouTube chat in with the live video, and everybody has fun. So with that said, I appreciate you guys that click the $ at the bottom of the chat box and give us the super chat donations. That helps, as always, with Sparky being able to keep the equipment, server fees, and everything going that we need to do this show. And it also helps me with my hobby budget a little bit. So appreciate that too. And I'm enjoying doing the show. So as long as y'all will come and entertain each other and entertain me, I'll try to entertain you. And now we'll sit back and wait and see who comes in. Looks like Bob Bishop popped up in the YouTube side already. We got 6 viewers who as yet remain anonymous, all except for Bob. And Bob kind of comes in and out as he can, but hangs with us when somebody's not calling him to do his job. And otherwise we'll hang here and talk about aeromodeling or planes, trains, and automobiles, whatever you like to play with in your shop or at the field or at the bench or at the park or wherever you like to do it. And so that's what we're all about. And so tonight's show hereby officially begins, and it looks like Frank's joined us. Good evening, Frank. How are you tonight?
Good, Rusty. How you been?
Pretty good. You're our first video visitor tonight. Remind me of what your last name is, Frank.
Last name is Donnelly.
Donnelly. Okay. I didn't know if you had told us that or not. We got a couple of Franks in here, sometimes both at the same time. Frank Washburn comes in frequently, so try to keep y'all separate when I address you. So what you got on the table or going on tonight?
One more coat of clear to get on the Cardinal, and I'm hoping for some warm weather tomorrow. We had snow yesterday.
My goodness, okay. We're not quite that bad yet, though we did get close to the 30s. Yes, last night and this morning. Not quite, but it's getting there.
Well, unfortunately, I have to do whatever painting I do outside. So, and they're calling for a high of 46 tomorrow. So, hopefully, I can get out there and get the last coat on and do the final assembly, and I'll be done with it.
What kind of humidity are you talking about? 40s, 50s?
What kind of humidity? What percentage?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to be like tomorrow. Today it was pretty dry, but all this, because the temperatures went up, all the snow that was on the ground was melting and evaporating. So I'm sure that drove the humidity up.
Yeah.
But that's all gone now. So I'm hoping for the best tomorrow.
Yeah. We got David Phelps just popped in over on Stunthangar. He's one of our newer buddies from North Carolina, I believe, and hit us with a super chat. So thanks, David. Appreciate that. And here comes Jack Snavely as I speak. And Jack says he's always looking forward to our show. Good. I hope lots of people are. I always get people that come up to me in Huntersville when we have the contests and tell me they watch. I like finding out who my quiet background viewers are. You know, sometimes it's fun to find out people have been watching that you never suspected. So, got to be careful who you talk about around here too. And here comes Bob Hunt. Hey, good evening, Bob. How things been going for you? Don't have any sound on Bob. Can you hear me, Bob?
Now can you hear me?
Now we can. Yeah, you got in too easy too. I better turn my anti troll controls on.
Oh, too late. I'm in.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll put up with you for a little while. And let's see. There we go. Now we're safe. Safe from everybody else anyway.
Yeah, haven't seen you guys in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I know. You've been making good use of your time. I forgot all what you told us you were going to be doing, but we knew you were busy.
Well, it's in the interim. I've made 2 trips by car, cross country, nonstop, and 2 flights cross country. I had to fly out to Seattle. Didn't have to, but my son was being transferred from his job at Boeing to Boeing in Philly. And so I flew out to drive back home with him. We drove back nonstop, got back home, and less than a week and a half later, he got transferred back to Seattle. And I had to drive out and then fly back.
Mercy.
Yeah.
So you think he's in Seattle to stay, or maybe it's just...
Well, he better be there for at least another week and a half, because I'm not
really. My sister-in-law from Seattle was here all last week visiting, and she's a hoot. She's a lot like my wife. They're both loud, obnoxious, and funny all at the same time. So,
your wife hear this?
Yeah, she can hear me. I wouldn't be saying it if I was afraid of her.
Maybe have the door locked. That's funny. Yeah, that's quite all right. But the good thing is, when we were out there, I got a chance to excuse me, to visit Everett, the Everett Boeing facility where they build the 787 Dreamliner, the 777, and the 747-8 freighter, which is the largest building in the world.
Wow.
It's huge. It's just, miles long and miles, 3/4 of a mile wide or whatever it is. And while we were there, we got to see the Dreamlifter, one of 4 Dreamlifters. Now, Dreamlifter is a 747 that's been converted to allow it to carry 787 fuselage components, which are being built around the world for Boeing.
It carries them internally, so it's really fat, I guess.
Yeah, it's huge. You can put a fuselage inside a fuselage, and this airplane breaks apart at the center. It actually, the tail section comes completely off, and they have a carrier that brings out the fuselage, and then they reattach the back end of the airplane that flies back to pick up another one. And there's 4 of them. And these things, if they're not loading or unloading, they're in the air 24/7, 365.
Wow, that's incredible. I would love to take a tour of a place like that.
And we got to see one of the Dreamlifters take off, which is very rare, they say, because, again, there's only 4 of them.
Well, we got Boeing down here in Charleston. I could probably sign up for a tour down there. I'm sure they
bring the Dreamlifter in there too.
Yeah.
You should go get a tour. It's an amazing thing.
I'd like to. I think that's definitely something I should put on my bucket list. Tour the Boeing factory.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then we also went to the Museum of Flight out there in Seattle, which is just south of the city, where my son works. He works at what they call the ranch. It's a research and development facility. He's in military end of it, and that was pretty amazing. I got to. They had this classic or golden age airplane exhibit there too, and they had a Curtiss Robin there. Now, little known fact, and this is an absolutely true story. My father's favorite airplane was the Curtiss Robin, and it's an OX-5 powered ugly airplane.
Ugly, yeah.
Downright ugly. And my name is not Bob, it's Robin.
They're right.
Yeah. And my brother's name is James Curtis. Curtiss Robin.
So you got named after the ugliest airplane that ever existed.
and he snuck that right past my mother. He suggested those two names, and she never told her until years and years later. We were named after an airplane.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a true story.
Have you met Frank? This is our one of our newest video visitors. He's in here. Hang on, you and Frank meet each other while I let Michael in.
Okay.
Yeah, how you doing, Bob?
I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good.
I'm tired of driving. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think I fly with a guy that knows you pretty well.
Who's that?
Steve Dombrowski.
Oh yeah, Steve's a great guy. I've known Steve forever.
Yeah, I met him about 3-4 years ago, and he got me back into control line.
Oh man, that's one of the best builders on the planet.
Yeah, he's
one of the most creative,
coaching.
One of the most creative people on the planet too. Is he still doing bonsai trees?
Yeah, oh, big time.
Yeah, he's one of the world's foremost authorities, isn't he?
Yeah, from what I learned, yeah, absolutely, which is amazing because, you know, it was a long time, I knew him for a long time before I realized, well, he told me that he did that, and it seemed like such a radical, different thing for him to be involved with.
Well, it's ski after all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great guy. You know Wes Smith, his buddy Wes Smith?
I don't know Wes Smith.
Okay, well, he used to hang out with Wes all the time. I guess I don't even know if Wes is still alive or not. I haven't heard from him in years, but they were like inseparable buddies, you know.
Okay. I'll have to mention that to him when I see him. I'll probably see him Sunday.
Say hello to him for me for sure. Tell him say hi to his son for me too.
Will do.
He's a good guy.
I don't know where Michael went, but well, he figures out how to get back in. Comment by Bob Bishop on YouTube. He's of the contention that the ugliest plane in the world is the Shorts Skyvan.
Well, it's on the short list with the Curtiss Robin anyway.
That's stubby, square-winged box that flies that people like to jump out of. I'm not sure what that is. Is that what this Shorts?
Yeah, pretty accurate.
And and it's one of those planes to me that looks like it can't fly. And if it's the one I'm thinking about, the only plane that looks less like it can fly might be a GB. And I think I mentioned the other night, I wouldn't fly in a GB if Chuck Yeager was behind the stick.
How about Jimmy Doolittle?
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. Doolittle was all about flying bigger planes off of a carrier deck that wasn't really a carrier deck. So
well, Jimmy Doolittle's the guy that flew the GB, won the Schneider Cup. Was it Schneider Cup or the
Thompson's Trophy or something?
Maybe I've got my people confused here. My palate's confused.
Yeah.
Jimmy Doolittle. I think of the Doolittle Raiders.
Well, he was that too, but he flew the
Oh, no kidding. Okay. So in Colombia, all we know is the Doolittle Raiders because they lived, worked, and practiced here during the war, doing bombing runs over Lake Murray, and so I guess I don't know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say.
Recently, either the last of them died or they're down to 2. I know they had what's called a tontine or tontine. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
Okay, a tontine is, in their case, was they had a wooden case constructed, a elaborate, beautiful wooden case. And in the case, they had a chalice or a brandy snifter, which with each of their names on it.
Yeah.
And then a bottle of 100-year-old brandy. And the deal was that as each one of them died, they turned these snifters over until there was only, I think, 3 left or 2 left.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 alive would drink the brandy as a toasting the others.
Yeah.
They got down to like 3 or 4 people, and they figured they better do it before they all die at one time. So they did the top
Yeah.
So.
It's a sad tradition, but true. Yeah. Now it comes back to me as you tell me about it. Yeah.
In a way, I think it's actually very, very noble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we're all going to go, but
Yeah, we are. We
those
are.
guys had something to really celebrate throughout their lives.
I'm always of the contention that people like us that live to have fun ought to get a break on diet until we're not having fun anymore. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, the time spent flying model airplanes is not deducted from your life, by God.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I'd love to be about 400.
Yeah.
Frank, have you seen Ski's lace maker?
Only pictures of it. He says it's pretty well beat up. The covering starting to go on it. It was, I guess, was all covered with silk span, and age has gotten to it.
One of the most exquisite airplanes ever built. It may be the most exquisite airplane ever built.
Yeah, I've gone to a couple of contests with him now, and people come up and mention that. First off, they say, "Is that Ski that you're with?" And then I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, do you know about the lace maker? We saw that back in, I don't know, was it the '86 Nats or something?" Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's I know about it, but I have never seen it firsthand. Yeah, one of these days I'll get over his place maybe and see what he's got.
Incredible airplane. And had a cable control system in it, and twin rudders, and fully enclosed cowl with the muffler inside the cowling. It was just an amazing piece of engineering and craftsmanship and finish. One of the best airplanes ever built anywhere, ever.
Yeah, I know people have been after him for putting together a set of plans and stuff for it, which he started at one point, but I think he sent everything off to somebody who passed away.
He never got it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Louis Werwich actually flew that airplane once. He was offered a flight. He took it. He said it was also one of the best flying airplanes he ever flew in his life. So,
did you fly it?
No, I did not. I was never had the opportunity to fly it. I would have loved to. I would have been very careful with it.
Yeah, that's dangerous too, being too careful. It's just flying other people's planes is a little nerve-wracking, especially if they're, just absolutely beautiful planes that thousands of hours have been put into. So
yeah, especially if it's a legendary airplane like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but say hi to Ski. He's a great guy. I really, really admire his abilities and talents, and just the fact that he's very open and friendly, and
oh yeah, I mean,
when you first meet him, you kind of figure like he's an axe murderer or something, and you take a look at him the first time you see him, and then you realize he wouldn't hurt a fly, he's just got that look of he's a little scary when you first see him.
Yeah. Well, he's put together all these drawings and stuff for me, just so I can hang them up and see, imagine what the hourglass looks like, and all kinds of stuff like that. He's really been a big help.
Oh yeah, super guy. Super guy. I hope he comes back to doing some flying, some more serious things.
I don't know. Maybe he will. He seems he didn't fly at all this year. The year before he flew once, I think. And he gets really excited and has a hard time breathing for some reason when it's time to go out and fly. And I think he's shying away from it a lot. He keeps building like crazy, but And he's out there every week helping us.
He built a, I think it was a dolphin a few years back, a red and white dolphin. It was really pretty.
And that I haven't seen yet.
I've heard of that, but I haven't seen it either.
Red, white, and black. Very similar paint scheme to what's on my Crossfire. And he saw a picture of my Crossfire, and he sent me a picture of his airplane Dolphin. And he says, looks like we stole each other's paint scheme. It was very similar paint scheme.
Oh, yeah.
And was strictly, you know, was developed independently. It was, you know, parallel development.
There was a Crossfire at a flea market we went to last weekend. One of the Philly Flyers guys bought it.
No kidding, really? Which one?
Was it painted up like the Thunderbirds?
No. It looked like one I remember seeing on a magazine cover that years ago that you were holding.
That's interesting.
Looked like a smaller one, like maybe for a 35 or something.
Yeah, that was the one that was painted like a Thunderbird. Maybe somebody repainted it.
Okay.
Possible.
Certainly didn't look like a Thunderbird. No, it was white and predominantly, and had a lot of ink lines and stuff on it. So I don't know.
Which one of the Philly guys bought it?
Skip. I don't remember Skip's last name.
Skip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Philly Skip.
Right.
He's the one with the picture I see occasionally of him standing out on a frozen lake flying a plane. And here comes Jared Hayes.
I don't think that's Skip. Isn't that Shrug Emery?
Doug Emery.
Up in Minnesota, flying out in the frozen lakes?
That's Skip. That's Philly Skip.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't. You could be right about. I mean, we got more than one person that probably flies on frozen lakes.
Yeah, but there's not too many frozen lakes around here.
Yeah.
It looks like a frozen lake. Hell, it could be a frozen baseball field for all I know.
It could be
like a lake. And when I said something about it, Skip said, "Yeah, that's me," and he did not deny that it was a frozen lake.
Right.
So I'm just going on conjecture here. How you doing, Jared? What's going on, man?
Hey, not too bad. Doing all right.
And here comes our buddy Charles Carter. Let him in. When it rains, it pours. And 1 click, 2 clicks.
You're trying to say that Charles is all wet?
3 clicks. Dadgummit, 4 clicks, and I hadn't got him in yet. Come on, these controls are touchy. That should get you in, Charles. No. I'll get you yet, Charles. Trouble at the controls. Show and broadcast. There you are. Man, these controls are a pain to work sometimes.
Rusty just said you're all
somebody else. So we got Steve Hines over here. See, I told you it was raining. No, y'all are not all wet. y'all are all I got right now.
Boy,
okay, Steve Hines.
There he is.
All right. How's everybody tonight? Charles, Steve?
Doing well, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob, how does it seem to have your son home?
How does it? Well, it felt good for about a week and a half, and now he's back in Seattle.
What happened there?
He got transferred back to Seattle, and I had to drive all the way back out to Seattle, then fly home.
Well, did he? I mean, that must be such a pain in the ass, renting apartments, moving furniture, and
well, he had a guy he had an apartment with out there. A guy was a college kid, and he had shared an apartment, and the guy didn't sublet the apartment, so he got the apartment back. That's not a problem, you know. And he didn't have a lot of furniture. He didn't bring up. I did inherit a lot of his stuff. He decided to leave all his model airplane stuff here, and because he really doesn't have a place to fly out there. So I inherited Frankentucker back again, and a whole bunch of a real nice drill set, bit set. So got a whole bunch of stuff back.
Working for Boeing, I would think there would be a lot of concrete somewhere around there that you could fly on.
Yeah, you would think, but it's not the case.
It's probably restricted areas, but
Paul
Now,
used to fly.
where does Paul Walker work? I hear he flies at lunch.
He worked at the exact same place that Robbie's working, in the military division down there. They call it the ranch, just south.
Yeah.
Of and he did have a place to fly, but then it shut down.
Okay. That seems to be the luck of the draw these days.
So doesn't Paul Walker have his own personal flying field in his backyard or something?
Now he does, but now he lives on the east side of Washington. He lives in Spokane, or whatever, however they say it, where he used to live over in Kent. And when he worked for Boeing, and he worked at the ranch, which is just south of the city of Seattle, a few miles. But he retired and moved.
So why did they move him and then move him back? They just
Don't ask me. It's a long story.
Oh, okay.
But
do they give him moving expenses at least?
No.
No.
No. No.
I
It's
guess
a
when you work for a behemoth of a company, you just do what you're told and collect your paycheck.
My screen here, all of a sudden I got something going on here. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Well, all I can see is like a light show on my screen right now.
No, you're a little jumpy, like your bandwidth is low, but we got a good clear picture on you.
Well, I changed over to a new update, Mojave. I'm on Mac, and they have Mojave update, and all of a sudden everything is different. I got Siri now, and I never wanted any of that crap.
It might take the third-party software suppliers and writers to catch up with the new version of the operating system.
Well, what we'll have to do is tap the mouse if that happens. I found out, and then come back again.
Yeah. Well, you're looking okay on this.
That show was much more interesting than you guys.
Did you get any snow up there by you, Bob?
What's that?
You get any snow?
Did we have snow? We still have snow. 7.5 inches out of nowhere, and it was a nightmare. And there's cars. When I had to pick up my wife, every time it snows, I take her to work. We knew it was going to snow. And that afternoon, I had to go get her. And there were cars crashed. There's still cars down in ravines. They slid off the road, spun out. There's people who were in their cars for 24 hours. They couldn't get out of the snowbanks. It's been horrible.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it snowed here pretty good last night. It wasn't that bad, but with it piling up on the warmer roads, it just makes it so greasy.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go, you can't stop, and opening day of deer hunting season here. So the guys that were left, I got home at 9 o'clock last night from work, but I was driving around town and going to calls, and it was just crazy. But made it through it. But I don't go very fast. It's just the deal of where putt along and make sure you're not going too fast, not to be able to stop and stuff. But yeah, you see people just flying around, and a little bit later you see them in the ditch as you keep going down the expressway. It's like, well, they hurried up and found a parking spot.
Yeah, well, I took my wife this morning. It snowed yesterday, so this morning the roads were pretty clear. But I was taking her over for hairdressers, and on the way back, we were coming by this ravine off to the side of the road here, and there was a car nose down deep in the ravine. I mean, it was right off the road, went down the ravine.
Yeah.
Well, I can't imagine how horrifying it would be to be trapped in a car that you couldn't open the doors or anything for 24 hours. I mean, that's a hell of a long time, even if you're not a claustrophobic person.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of them just stay in there to stay warm. They got, they don't want to get out and walk. And you got a lot of these women with these little flats and all this kind of stuff from work trying to hoof it someplace, and they just stay there and wait for help.
Yeah, I wonder how many people get poisoning from carbon monoxide trying to run the heater.
Yeah. Well, that's a good lesson. We should all put some kind of a, kit together with a good heavy duty throws that you can put over yourself, and
Absolutely. Even in South Carolina, I carry an emergency supply.
Water and flares and everything,
I'm trying to let people in. I got more than one
Well,
applicant.
you got a crowd.
Trying.
Well, that's one thing. If you own a Tesla, when you run your heater, there ain't no way to get carbon monoxide. But
Trying and Sparky, I'm letting y'all in. Just please hang on while there comes Sparky. Okay, Doran, let me try you again, Mr. Tryon Doran. Show and broadcast. There we go. Okay, everybody's in. How are you guys tonight?
I'm good.
We got a big crowd.
Yeah. We have a quorum. Why don't we vote?
yeah, what do we want to vote on?
No more snow. And no more trips to Seattle.
I'll vote. Yeah, I'll vote y'all's way on that.
So I can't see anybody anymore. Can't see anything.
We see you just fine.
Yeah.
Really?
Click your mouse on the screen.
Are
Okay.
you running a Mac by any chance, or are you on?
No, I'm not. But that did it. That brought it back.
Yeah. Are you on a Mac?
No, I'm not.
Oh.
You got real computers.
I bet you I had the best monitor of anybody here.
I bet I got the cheapest monitor of anybody here.
But I got the most expensive one. Boy, I'll tell you, this thing is like watching high-def TV. It's really something. Huge.
How huge? 32 inches?
Yeah, I think it is 32 inches.
That's 32 inches right there.
It's a Mac, and it's really much higher def than anything I've ever had in a PC.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at a 21-inch monitor. I'd like to have two monitors rather than one big giant one.
Yeah, I got two monitors.
A regular computer.
There's my 32-inch, and the second monitor over there.
There you go.
Was that a 69 Chevelle SS?
That is.
Well, that's nice.
Wait, that's not a 69. Hang on, let me click on it.
It's a 69.
Yeah, sure enough. And it's got the same paint job mine did, and I actually squared the rally stripes on it like that. And you don't see them like that very often. Same colors, same stripes.
Is that the 396, 375?
Well, it probably used to be. It's got an LS motor in it now.
Mine was a 396, 350.
My dad had this exact same car back when he was probably 20 years old or so. He had a 69 Chevelle SS just like that too, blue with the white stripes.
Yeah, my dad's was white when he bought it in '69, and I inherited it when he died a couple of years later.
Yeah, my brother still has his car that he got when he was 18. It's a 1972 O's 442. Got 27,000 miles on it.
That ain't nothing to sneeze at either, although I was never a fan of the looks. It was a serious muscle car.
Same body style as that one.
Nah,
Different
that Chevelle's got body lines on it that are unique.
Yeah, I had a 69 Nova on order with a 396, 375.
Wow.
Yeah, I had it on order, and then I saw a Corvette I loved, and I ditched the order and bought the Corvette.
I saw what might or might not have been a real Yenko Nova the other day at this little place around the corner called the Toy Shop that evidently runs down expensive toys for guys to buy. And It looked like a real Yenko Nova, but without climbing around and looking at it, you know, you can't really tell for sure.
Yep,
Now, Yanko was out of Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course you had the Baldwin Motion Performance ones out there in Long Island. You know, those were the big ones around here too.
There's my Nova.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Let me click it up. Don't take it away yet.
Oh wow.
Okay, so that's also a 69.
Mine's a 70.
Ah, okay.
You got it all tubbed and everything, huh?
Yeah.
Got a nice.
Street.
Wow.
What's under that scoop on the hood?
Yeah, let me find it here and I'll show you.
What does that turn the quarter in?
We don't have a quarter mile here anymore. So all we have is an 1/8 mile, and the motor that's in it is set up for nitrous, but I don't have nitrous on it, so it's just
motor.
Yeah, just motor, and it's running 6.5 in the 1/8 mile. And if I put spray on it, it'd probably be a second faster.
What you got, about 512s in it or something, or
488?
48, yeah.
Yep. And then I've got a gear vendor's overdrive, and then a turbo 400 transmission.
Jeez.
Let's see, I'm trying to do this.
My Chevelle had a turbo 400. My Camaros all had M22 rock crushers.
Power glide.
There's a picture from the front. Black maroon stripes.
Nice.
Yikes.
I love them Chevys.
Now is the power glide, is that 2-speed?
Yeah, that's 2-speed automatic. My 67, my first car ever was a 67 Nova SS with a 283 and a power glide, and it was not a built power glide, so it was like we called it slip and slide with power glide. I didn't know what potential they had until later in life when that car was long gone.
Of course, all the Chevys all had Ford rear ends in them.
Oh wow, there's a motor there. Wow, that looks wicked.
That's a small block, right?
Yeah, it's a small block 400 with a stroke crank in it, so it makes it a 421.
The small block 400 was a shit for a street engine, but it was an awesome racing engine, if I'm not mistaken. Is that basically the story on it?
Yeah.
I don't know, around here, if you had a 400 small block, there wasn't a lot that could touch you.
Yeah, it's got more torque than, you know, a 350, and then more cubic inches on top of it too.
Yeah.
So.
With Siamese cylinders and kind of a restricted water jacket, I think was its main problem for a street machine.
Well, I run on E85, so I have absolutely no overheating.
No heat problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have trouble trying to get heat in the motor.
Yeah. Beautiful. Ah, man, thanks for the show and tell. That's nice.
Hey, Jared, don't you have a video of inside the car going down the strip? Going down
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think I've been in that. I mean, I've watched the video. So it's like I was in the car virtually, you know?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So what was the other, besides Yanko? There was another one too that.
Copo was one.
Oh, yeah.
That was the name of the dealer program, wasn't it? The Copo program wasn't that the program that Yenko was using to order cars with big block engines and stuff like that?
Now, Copo was another, wasn't that California?
I thought that was the General Motors special order program.
Yeah, see here, and a lot of people don't know about it around the country. We had by Berger, and them cars are worth just as much as the Yankos and stuff, but Berger Chevrolet is still in business here in town. And my buddy worked there in the body shop, and you have to come up with a serial number and all this kind of stuff to buy the little thing that said by Berger. It was a chrome little emblem that went on there. So it was like a Nova by Berger, Chevelle by Berger. But Yanko was another name of a, you know, it was always the people's last name, Copo, and
I think you put that nobler kit together wrong.
I'll take it like it is. Thank you.
What's wrong with it?
That's on too light of a lines, I think. Need to put some heavier lines on it.
There's the looking in like where the back seat was in my car. You know, that's the roll cage now.
Yeah, you got some serious equipment there, Jared.
Jared, where do you live?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow.
And they don't have a quarter-mile strip there in Omaha?
We used to. It closed down. The guy that owned the track wanted to move it closer to Omaha or to Lincoln. It was about an hour and a half drive from Omaha to get to it. And then you had to drive on about a 2-mile gravel road once you turned off the highway to actually get to the track. And so he wanted to build a new track right north of Lincoln, which is about 45 minutes away from Omaha. And he bought the land and started leveling the land. He had to go ahead, and then people in the city ended up shutting him down. And basically they had friends on the city panel that wanted to build houses there where this guy wanted to put the track. And so they end up getting a kickback from their friends that wanted to build houses, and they put the kibosh on him. And then he ended up getting divorced, and then he didn't have enough money to build the track somewhere else. So, so now we're relegated to a 8-mile track that's over in Iowa.
Yeah, all we had was quarter-mile when back in the day. It was like early 80s, late 90s, late 70s when I was running, and never heard of an 8-mile track. And I'm one day standing at the gas station listening to these guys talking about 5 seconds, 4 seconds, and leaning. One of them's leaning on a car talking about 5 seconds. I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Exactly.
And they just said, we're 8th mile, man, 8th mile. I said, what? 8th mile? Geez, it's all in the launch, isn't it?
Yeah, 8 mile is huge right now. It's actually more popular than quarter mile.
I got an airplane question for you, Bob, before I go.
Yeah.
I'm building a new wing, but I'm not going to use 3/32 sheeting. I'm going to use 16th. What weight 16th do you use for the leading edge?
What density?
Yeah.
About 6.5 pound density. You know, it works fine. It's about the same weight as lighter 32nd, but it's stiffer grain. So in the long run, it soaks up less finish, and it's actually we'll get less of that starved horse look, or none of it, over the ribs. So I would go with the stiffer 16th.
The reason I asked is I already had somebody put their hand through my leading edge, and
on the new airplane?
No, the old one.
Oh man.
Hey, Sparky, you should see about getting some of that wood that Bob sent it even thinner, the heavier stuff that weighs out, you know.
We got a bunch of 16th that's about 8 pound, even 9 pound stock, and we're taking it down to 3/64. You know, 077. No, 077. 045. And it works great. That's what I used to cover wings with, foam wings with years ago. And Tom Luciello's got a micro sander, and he's standing down about 400 or 500 sheets of it for me.
I got a bunch of 4 to 6 pounds, so
the 6 pound will work. The 6 pound will work. It has to be A grain though, obviously, in order to mold around the leading one.
Right. Well, at least one piece has to be A grain.
Right. You know what I do? What I did on that last Genesis, I used. We're getting some kind of feedback here.
Click your screen again, Bob.
Yeah, we don't know where that feedback comes from. It just comes and goes.
Well, anyway, on that one Genesis I built, I used that got to be me.
Let me mute you for a second and see. Let me find you and mute you.
Well, I'm seeing it on Sparky's. When you guys talk, I see it come up. Like when I'm talking, it shows a green line coming up on Sparky's.
Yeah, I don't hear it now, but Bob's muted.
Yeah, see when you say it there again? It comes up on Sparky.
Yeah. But it came for a while and went away the other night.
Anyway, I'm going to be going anyhow. So.
No, I was going to tell you, I use it when I covered that the leading edge on that Genesis. I used a piece of A grain at the leading edge where the tight radius is, and then I used quarter grain on the rest of it because the quarter grain will bend a little bit. It just won't bend around the leading edge. So that ended up being like a girder. You know, weighed nothing, and it was like really strong. That quarter grain made it incredibly strong.
Well, I got a steam box now, so that'll help make it bend.
You don't even need to do it with the steam box. You don't even, and in fact, you don't even have to wet down the quarter grain that's aft of the leading edge piece, the constant cord piece that goes around the leading edge. That's all you have to do is just wet that with a paper towel and water, and it'll bend right around, and the quarter grain will just bend over the gentle curve of the ribs. You don't have to wet that at all, and you don't have to wet the seam between the three pieces of balsa wood. Just wet down the center of the constant cord piece of the leading edge.
And here's another question. Is there a way, I know it's going to be difficult. I was going to build a completely molded airplane out of 16ths, but there's just not enough time. That's going to be a real time-consuming project. So I'm going to take 3/32 as fuselage sides, and to make it stronger, I want to put
curve it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Will that work even though I'm
absolutely? Absolutely will work. Dennis Adamison used to build airplanes like that all the time, and they were like girders. I mean, those things were like so rigid it was unbelievable. You put a slight curve, you know, in the formers, top and bottom, and then the fuselage to them. They become so strong it's almost not believable.
Right, that's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And then
my new airplane.
And of course, molded top and bottom.
Right.
All right.
Of course, you have to make a mold buck then to fit the angle or the curve of the sides as you mold the sides around the curved formers. Then you have to also build a mold buck that will match that curve. Otherwise, you get, a two-step curve on the fuselage. You don't have a whole lot of wood to work with, the sand, so it's got to fit perfect.
Me being here, and I got John, so we got a hot wire and all that, so we're working together.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be easier, Bob, just to make two shells and mold the whole thing?
It is easy to do that. I mean, it's I don't know if it's any easier or not, but this is a way of using standard fuselage construction than just putting the top and bottom of the formers and bending the sides in a little bit. It's kind of a poor man's way of doing what you've been doing,
What I'm thinking is just like Chris Cox made the buck for his fuselage.
I don't want to make a buck and make a big project out of it. I just want to put it together and do it quick.
That's what makes it easier to do it this way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what I said. I mean, I know I wanted to build a whole molded fuselage, but that's a big project. It's probably a 2-week deal making getting it right.
Really? I mean, you'll probably spend just a day making the plugs out of foam and some formers over there. The next day you make the shells, you wrap it with ace band-aids, then you use an X-Acto knife blade. What you want to do, you have it flat on the table and get the X-Acto knife blade like this and just cut around.
I know exactly how to do it.
That just gives you the parting line, and then you join the two halves, you're done. You have a fuselage. And you don't need formers inside of that thing. I mean, yeah, whatever. There's a lot of ways to do things.
Different strokes.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right, Sparky. Take it easy, man.
Good, Sparky.
Bye.
Good night.
Dorian.
Yes.
Is that a nickname? Is Dorian a nickname for you?
Doran, yes. It's my it's my middle name.
Oh, okay. Because I sent that stuff off to you, and it's like that's a different name than what I was used to. But you should have that. You should have that battery by Monday.
Ah, great. That would be wonderful. I mean, it's great. I made a test rig to test this electric motors.
Yeah.
And in particular, I'm trying to see for different motors at the same RPM and different batteries, what kind of power consumption I'm getting, what kind of amps I'm getting, and just try to make a more of a decision of what's going on there. But even more precise would be to do it in the air, where
unloaded condition.
yeah. And I'm just still I think I got a good handle on the Igor Berger settings, because I was doing something wrong in the past and I didn't know how to set it properly. So it's still a learning experience for me.
We just got our we found out that our Igor Berger systems are here in New Jersey in customs, and they'll be to us hopefully this week.
Oh, very good.
No,
Is that your first Igor Berger?
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you read the instructions carefully.
Well, I got Tom Luciano, who's got one working perfectly, and he knows how to set it up. So I'm going to take instructions.
But it doesn't mean anything, because for a different prop, different pitch, you're going to set it differently.
Yeah, but he understands how to make it work. So I'm going to go by his. He's going to be my mentor in this.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, you definitely need somebody.
There's that 442.
Long story short, if you look at the very last page of the timer instructions, there is a graphic over there, and there are two parameters over there. There are two things on one graphic. That's what you need to understand. One of them, it's the ESC settings, which actually maps the way the throttle responds, where it starts, where it ends, and how fast it increases. So and then you have overlaid on top of that the timer accelerometer inputs.
Mm-hmm.
So those inputs are on a curve. So your curve is like this, goes from this RPM to that RPM, and then timer goes from here to here, right?
Right.
So this is going to give you the gap. But now if you notice here, if you want to go more pitch, you want to curve more abrupt, so you have more increase for the same timer input, right? Because it goes from here to here. So you need to play with the end point and the beginning point of the curve to get it. Like, so
well, that's what I intend to do, is go out and do a lot of test flying in the spring and learn how to use it properly. You know?
Yes. Absolutely.
Nothing like actually going out to the field and learning it by flying it and finding out what it does.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But you still have to have like a general idea.
Like I say, Tom's got
what
this.
Does what and how it creates changes in the way it responds.
Yeah, Tom Luciano's really been studying it. He's been able to adjust it to do exactly what he wants it to do. And I've flown his airplane, and it flies unbelievably well.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best flying things I've ever flown in my life.
Yeah, you can set that timer up. The Chinese are probably the ones, did all the winning. Well, they fly it way different than what Igor does.
Mm-hmm.
And the Germans are someplace in between Igor and the Chinese.
We know a lot of times Igor has confessed that he actually shuts it off completely and just flies almost like a human timer setup.
Yeah.
It depends on the flying conditions. And sometimes he doesn't use it at all.
Yeah, he does that. But what he was talking about is we didn't realize about what you set in the ESC makes a huge difference on what you set in the accelerometer.
Yeah.
It's time over whatever, and it's a percentage, and if you change the one, it really changes the other. And at the end, we were hardly given any acceleration to the model, but we're slowing it down.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest advantage for us older guys, is the fact that it's going to increase the time coming downhill in heavy winds in that square loop. That's a huge thing. It's going to increase. It's going to extend our careers a little bit.
But it makes what I kind of seen, and the Chinese were doing too. is that it makes it look like you fly it better because every leg is the same, probably timing for the pilot, but the judges see this bang, bang. It's not bang, slow, speeding up fast, and you're watching it. It doesn't look like you're flying it is nice when the speeds are changing so much in the square and stuff.
I've watched a number of people fly them over the last couple of years, and I know that I don't know how he's doing it now, but I know that Orestes had his set very active. I mean, the thing was like on and off, on and off, on and off, all over the place, and it was very distracting to me. As if I was, I didn't judge it, but if I were a judge, and you shouldn't allow this to affect you, but I think that on and off, on and off, on and off would affect me as a judge. It would be distracting to me. And then Paul has gotten to the point where he's not doing it that way anymore, and it sounds a lot better to me. And yet he's getting plenty of breaks and plenty of thrust where he needs it. So again, you got to learn to play with it, and you got to learn what you want for yourself. But it gives you all the advantages of being able to set it up any way you can set it up.
Well, yeah, I believe that you can set it up for your style of flying and what's nice. The Paul is not going to be yours.
It has revolutionized. It's revolutionized stunt flying. Revolutionized. It'll be the future for years.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, getting that, I think, set is going to take as long as trimming an airplane.
Well, maybe at first, but I think after a while, when you start, it's like anything else. The first time you trim an airplane properly, it takes a long time, and then you start learning when you get,
Right, but for each airplane, your settings, that's going to be part of your. Besides getting it trimmed right, that's going to be the other part of the trimming for flying the airplane.
Yeah, but you'll be doing one at the same time you're doing the other. Yeah, the first time will take forever. The next time will take half of forever. The next time will take a third of forever. So.
Yeah, once you find out what you like, and
yeah, it's not that big.
And not only that, I think the most important thing to learn when you trim something is what does what. What's the cause and effect of everything. So if you want something, you know what to do to get that something.
Yep.
And the same is with a timer as well. For example, what I've learned is that first thing I've learned when I realized that what I was doing wrong is that my mapping on the motor was completely wrong. When you go to a higher pitch prop and run a little bit lower RPM, you want more brake. When you want a flatter pitch prop, you want a little bit less brake, right? So depending on what propeller you want, you need to set your acceleration that the electronic speed controller, let's put it this way, the timer we're going to give you input from, if you have like a real plane, from a half throttle to full throttle, somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the accelerometer was going to give you an output, right? And it's always going to go in that narrow range, whatever you set it. Whatever your target is, you go plus minus half of your sensitivity. So if your sensitivity is 50 and your target is here, it's going to go 25 above, 25 below, kind of regardless, right? Those are the maximum and minimum that you virtually set through the timer settings. But if your throttle curve goes very flat, 25 above, 25 below, you kind of get the same RPM. If your curve is very steep, 25 above, 25 below is going to give you a big
line, yeah.
Big change in RPM.
Have you ever flown one of the Fioretti systems?
I never tested it yet.
I flew one of those, and that was eye-opening too. That was very, very good system.
Yeah, I have one. It just never got put in anything yet.
And Joe Daly has one, and I flew it in his airplane. I was very impressed. I was impressed very much with it. But then again, I've flown the Igor system too in Tom's airplane, and I was equally impressed. So either way, they're way better than what I was doing with just, and I hate to say this because I love Will Cuban like a brother, but I think he needs to system, or he's going to get left behind because these things are amazing.
Yeah. The aerial system was going to go in Samantha's plane, but nobody knew that much about it. So I ended up scrapping that and buying a whole new Igor system. That's why Samantha's plane was so much money. First, I bought all 5-cell batteries and a motor and the Fiorenti system, and no one knew how to use it, didn't like it, so I ended up having to rebuy 6-cell batteries and the complete Igor system, but that probably worked out the best because more people used it, tested it over, the World Championships, and you got to hear why they were setting things a certain way. And
how did the Chinese guy who won? How did he have his set up? Did he have a very active, or did he have it, somewhat sedate?
It was very quick, but little on the acceleration, but more on the deceleration.
Okay. How about Marco? The guy that took second.
I'm not sure. I talked with the Germans. Was he a German?
No, he's Italian.
Italian.
I'm not sure how he had his set up. The Germans were closer. They actually gave it more acceleration and about the same deceleration as the Chinese. I don't know how fast. I should have wrote it all down, but I didn't. Talking to all these people, what they were saying. So we just started playing with Samantha's and dialing, fly so many flights, and we ended up with moderate acceleration, which I wanted to lower. I think he flew better with it, but everybody, no, that ain't the way to do it. And she's like, Dad, maybe we should go back to what they're saying. And I'm like, fine, I ain't gonna argue with anybody.
It was like what? 13 of the top 15 were electric. So were they all Igor systems?
I believe so. I didn't see any other system there.
Were they all set up a little different as far as the speed of and the amount of activity that you heard from the timer?
Yeah, everybody had their own preferences, and that's why I think it's so be customizable to the way you like to fly.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That it's going to be very dialable to each person's,
Right. It's like, a race car. These race car drivers, not one of them cars are actually set up the same.
Right.
All the Chevy cars are all Chevys, got the same motor, same whatever. They all drive a little different.
Right.
And they all win but it has to do, I think, with a person's timing, their reflexes, and all this kind of stuff to what
conditions you're flying in and everything.
Right. What you like and what works.
Well, I'm anxious to get a system and get out and start trying it and testing it in heavy wind and turbulence and dream air and everything else, and find some, some settings that will work in each one of those things.
Well, I think you're going to get a lot of joy out of this system because you love trying things, testing things.
I myself crazy.
Right. But I really believe that you're going to get out there and go, wow, it's going to fire you up on.
Well, it already did. I had no intentions of coming back to flying. And then Luciano, he and Imbriaco got this little, intrigue to get me out there to the field, and I went out to fly his airplane, and he had the Igor system in it, and I flew it, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got to get back to flying. So,
kind of like pipe motors, huh?
Yeah, it's it's actually a bigger jump than from muffled motors to tuned pipes was a huge jump. This is a unbelievable jump.
Yeah, but I mean, it took the pipe deal to get you back interested in.
Yeah, well, to a degree.
Time in and stuff like that.
I was flying RC at the time, it's a pattern, and that's when Dean and Richie developed that second reflected wave tuned pipe, and I had no thoughts about control line until a set of circumstances that it showed at the field. Dean called me over. He said, Bob, where have you ever wanted a motor run like this? And he demonstrated something. And I said, I don't know where. He says, well, control line stunt, man. He says, you suck at RC, but you're really good at control line. So you're going back to control line. And that's how that happened.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy, you know, working with this, you know, like with your twin deal and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll have fun.
I can't unmute you.
I got my Genesis back.
All right.
And sold that to Mark Weiss, and he sold it back to me. So.
What is look at what Jared's showing.
Oh
wow.
That's the RC there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The brand.
What's the wingspan on that?
They do it. It's that's what 61 inch.
Okay.
Twin 80 millimeter fans.
Yeah. That's got to go upstairs fast.
So, yeah, we'll see. It's a pretty big plane, well, kind of heavy.
It's all foam?
Yeah. They got it on sale right now on Motion RC's November sale, so I had to get one.
Yeah, I'm waiting for, what is it, Cyber Monday? And get on for Hobby King.
Hey, excuse me, Doran, I muted you a minute ago, and now I can't seem to unmute you. If you got it muted on your side too.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
There you are.
I had to clean my table off so I could start working on it.
Bob, what I want to say is that we're probably going to find out that we want a setup for wind, another setup for nice weather.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We're gonna
another in-between setup.
Yeah, we're going to have to go out and find setups that work for each individual thing. But that's the advantage of this.
Yeah.
To set it up right where you want. Now, of course, the other part of this is: are you a kind of pilot that can adapt to a whole different setup?
Oh, I fly around. I can fly anything.
I'm not saying you or me. I'm saying average pilots out there, will they be able to utilize this? Like some other pilots will. Some pilots will adapt to it quickly, and some won't.
Yes.
I have a feeling that the most inexperienced people will actually be able to gain from this more than experience. I mean, like with Samantha flying from dead air to nice air to windy, the old airplanes, it's just like you had to fight through it and stuff and step back. Mm-hmm. You can adjust this stuff now to where that airplane flies about the same in any weather.
Yeah.
Once you got your settings what you want.
What I'm saying though is that when you adjust the settings for wind versus like Dream Air, there's going to be a difference in the way the system responds, and the timing will be a little different. And some people can react to timing changes better than other people can. That's just how it is. Even with the tuned piped engines, we found that. Some people are so used to a heavy 2.4 brake, they're not going to be able to fly at constant speed, and vice versa. Some people can adapt, and some have a harder time doing it. I'm just wondering if people can adapt, because this is going to allow you to do any one of those feelings. And will people be able to adapt from a heavy wind situation to a Dream Air situation when you change the timing that much?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if the weather was nice, I'll probably just slow it down to fly 6 second laps and just read the book while I'm doing the pattern.
Yeah.
When it's windy, I may speed it up and maybe increase the amount of brake you get.
Yeah.
Now, another thing you may open the door to is that there's always this concept: you fly at constant speed. I said, why? Why not slow down on a down line?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Bring it to a stop, to a very slow end point, and then hit the bejesus out of it and make the plane turn and go.
Well, I confess, I'm one of the guys that said, I want to fly at a constant speed all the time. And I was like adamant about it. And then I flew the system that had this slowdown coming downhill, and I went, oh my gosh, I got all the time in the world. And yet when it turned the corner, the power was on 100%. And it was an epiphany to me. I mean, it was like, this is going to allow you to fly patterns better than you've ever flown them ever, So.
Yeah.
It might be better for flying, but that's where I said about the judging. It doesn't look like it's flown right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a whole other part of this. You know, the pilots never think about judges, you know, and the judges, you know, will have their own way of looking at all this stuff. And it may even come down to biases against electric. I've seen that. I've actually had judges say that, you know, they don't like electric, you know, and that judge should never ever judge again. But what I'm saying is, first thing, the pilot's got to be able to adapt, to make it work for him, and then not worry about what the judges think. They'll come around, you know.
But you know, the whole thing with me is that if it has enough power, everything should be constant.
Well, that's your way of looking at it.
Not constant power to the motor, constant speed of the airplane. You know.
Well, why would you want that? Why don't you want to make life
the
easy?
RPM turned at 11,000 and it never changed.
Why wouldn't you want the airplane to slow down in a heavy wind? That outside square loop, that's bang bang, you know, constant speed. But we could have it go and bang bang. You know, you could slow it down and still have the power on where you need it. Why would
I'm saying that constant power.
Why wouldn't you want to try that?
No, constant speed. So if it takes you 2 seconds to go across the bottom, 2 seconds to go up, 2 seconds to go across the top, 2 seconds down, no matter what the air is, how hard it's blowing, all your turns, everything's the same.
Yeah, but a constant speed setup will not, a constant speed motor setup will not give you that.
Right, exactly. What I'm saying is
it will always go faster coming downhill.
Right, we're talking constant speed on the propeller or whatever. We're not talking constant speed on what the airplane's doing. But with indoors, you can actually have a constant, the airplane's always traveling at the same speed. It won't wind up. If you like it coming down at 55 miles an hour, no matter what the wind's doing, you know, I guess it could get so strong that.
What I'm saying to you is, if you're going to have constant speed, you're going to have different speeds of the motor going up and down.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, we're.
But Bob, see, here's where I'm going, and I may want to be slightly different. And why not speed it up on the up line and slow it down on the down line?
Well, okay, when you're speeding up the motor on the up
line. I have a
line.
little bit different timing, but it's just timing that you need to get used to take advantage of the system.
Well, I don't want the airplane to go faster going up. I want the airplane to go the same speed, but the motor is going to have to go at a different speed in order to maintain that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. Okay, so you can set it up any way you want to set it up, right? So why wouldn't you set it up like to drive on an up line without speeding up too much, right? Or you just keep the speed constant. So you have constant speed, slow down.
Well,
makes sense?
Because the judges think you're afraid of the ground.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. But I think they do sense that there's something about it that they don't like.
That's different. Yeah, it didn't score good over there.
I don't think judges
are afraid of that ground.
I don't think judges are actually thinking that much when they're scoring a maneuver. But their oral perception of what's going on. Because I've noticed it when I'm out flying and see these guys fly with the hard on and hard off, and it's very active. You know, it's very distracting to me. So I imagine that would be to a judge as well. Now, when I flew Tom's setup, he had it where it was boosting going uphill and braking downhill, but not so much that you could hear it. You could feel it, but you couldn't hear it. And I like that.
Oh, I see. So it's more of a subtle change.
Yeah.
Not
there's more to this than just visual. There's oral too. You know, people hear things.
Yeah.
Well, that was like, you know what, we were at the qualifier with Chris flying in that wind. He's a hell of a wind flyer. And that airplane was hauling ass on the way down, and he was hitting the same bottoms, you know, same corners. Everybody's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it must be great to be in your 20s, you know, or early 30s.
Oh yeah, it made him seem like a better flyer or whatever. You know, if that airplane just would have stopped and then you could have made the corner. Anyone could do that corner.
Yeah, put a couple more kids and a couple more years on him, and he'll be wanting to slow that down a little bit.
Yeah. But, you know, it's a lot of it's perception, you know, because everybody knows
it is
that, you know, if you're flying at 50 miles an hour and making that 5-foot corner, if you're flying at 25, making that 5-foot
First off, nobody in the flight has ever made a 5-foot radius corner. So let's
right. Yeah, I'm just saying, it just makes you seem like you're a better. That has to be a better deal because you're doing it at that speed. It's harder. You must be, you know, a better pilot or whatever.
I don't know if judges actually think that way or not. They may, but I think that they're more immediate. That they hear something that doesn't sound right to them, they're going to. It's going to affect their scores. I think that they're so used to the 2-4 break, you know, and that they're. When they hear this new system, it's going to take them a while to adjust. That's all. It'll happen. It's already happening. I mean, at the Worlds, what were there 2 glow engines? You know.
Samantha was saying when she was training there, you know, at the Nats and stuff for judging, that the perception of when you're watching someone out there fly, and all of a sudden they got this look of disgust on their face and and stuff like that. That you tend to want to score them lower because if they know it's a bad maneuver, I better see something bad in it. And you know,
there's an old saying in stunt: never confess.
Right, and it's the same thing as swearing. Certain people swear while they're flying.
And with electric, you can hear the pilot swear.
Oh yeah, right. You can actually hear some of the pipe motors. And that's what Samantha said. She goes, "You swear when you're flying." It's an automatic downgrade of that maneuver.
There you go.
You better, when you come back to the judges, you better have a smile on your face like, wasn't that great?
Yeah. You can have a swear jar. You got to put a buck in the jar every time you swear now.
You know what I found out when I just made a couple of videos of my flights and that's it, right? And when I was watching the videos, I learned 2 things. First thing that I learned is that the huge mistakes I thought I was making, they were very small from a much further distance, like from judge's position. To me they were huge, but from when I look in the video, I was like, I know I screwed it up, but it's not, doesn't look as bad as it really was to me.
Dorian, you're learning a valuable lesson. Here's the dichotomy of this whole thing. The better you get, the more you're going to be aware of the tiny mistakes, and the more mistakes you think you're making, but the better you're going to be flying. You're going to be flying so much better, but your perception of what you're doing is more critical. So you think you're flying worse, but everybody else will say, "Boy, you're flying great." You're more critical. You're honing in on fine mistakes, and you see some of them, but the gross mistakes are gone. You're honing down to a fine point, and you keep more fine things. But the average person will watch your pattern and say, "Wow, that was great," you know. So
yeah.
You think you suck, and everybody else thinks you're great, you know. And when you're beginning, you think you're great, and everybody else thinks you suck, you know. So it's really it's a dichotomy, you know.
Have you guys seen that video trace that you can put on your videos now, and you can actually watch a line being drawn behind the point? Yeah, that was pretty good. I have that software. I got it off of some guy in Spain. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm flying intermediate, and I thought, wow, this stuff really looks terrible with what I'm doing. So I went down to this contest down in Lorton, Virginia, and I videoed like 4 of the experts. And when I came back and watched that, I mean, there's a heck of a lot better than what I'm doing. But there was a lot of those maneuvers that really, mine didn't look so bad compared to those.
No, yeah. But you think about it now, right? The difference between an intermediate flyer and the top expert flyer is not that great. So then I'll give you it's not that great. If you're doing a pattern already and it's recognizable, you're already a pretty good flyer. So you're talking about incremental things now.
Yeah.
I have a question, you guys. I'm trying to get in. Regarding the square, I don't count, but I know there's some people who believe in counting. They'll do like a cadence: 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now with the that system you're talking about, where it'll slow it down, going down, wouldn't that interfere with someone if they happen to do that counting?
Yeah, you're gonna have to adjust to the system rather than the system adjusting to you, or you can adjust the system to make it whatever you want. But yeah, if you're gonna set it up like more active, yeah, you're gonna have to learn another way of flying. When I told you about counting, clicking off time or counting time, I wasn't talking about specific time, the same amount of clicks going up, across, and down. What I'm talking about is a meter. It's about rhythm. I'm a musician, so I always have a metronome going in my head.
Right.
You ever hear of swing music? You've heard of swing music, I'm sure. Swing music, you have a beat going like this, and you may be ahead of it or behind it, and you're swinging around the rhythm, but you have a metronome in your head that's keeping the time. So even though you're playing speeding up and slowing down in places, you're trying to maintain this metronome in your mind, this pace of the pattern, and that really helps. Yeah, you can't count exact timing because the airplane will accelerate going downhill and will slow up going uphill.
Mm-hmm.
You can't count exact time, but you can keep a metronome going that keeps the pace of the pattern or the tempo of the pattern the same.
That's how I fly. I mean, I'm counting the laps and I'm stating the maneuver that's next, but I don't count like my squares or triangles. I just have methodone in my head, and I just can just see it. I used to be a musician, for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I still have that methodone in my head where I can do it, but I don't count it.
A lot of really great stunt flyers are also really good musicians. Billy Werwick, Jimmy Casal. I mean, there's been a number of them. And I'm not saying you have to be a musician to do it, but when people ask me how to fly stunt better, I say start listening to music. It doesn't matter what kind, just listen to music and tap your foot and learn to get that metronome to any music, whether it be a rock and roll piece or a slow piece or a ballad. If you learn how to keep that rhythm going in your mind and then fly around that rhythm, around that metronome, you'll be a better flyer.
Right.
What I have found out, hi gentlemen, from Omaha, Nebraska. What I have found out is I kind of use the same technique that full-scale aerobatics pilots will do. If you ever go to the air show or the airport and they're over here in the grass and they are going through the maneuvers in their head on the ground and what they got to do upstairs.
Called imaging.
Yeah. And it's called the aerobatic dance. That's what they call it.
Yeah, but it's actually imaging.
I got a really good video of what's Giggle's name? Jessie Panzer out of Lincoln, Nebraska. I got a really good video of her actually doing that. And I was like taking some pictures of some airplanes over here, and she's behind her airplane doing that. And I was filming her. And all the while, she was focused on that and didn't even notice that I was filming her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really neat technique. You sit there and watch them do that, but you don't interrupt them. I go out to the flying circle. I go out to the circle. I get an idea of where that wind's coming from, and my idea where it's the wind coming from that direction. All the maneuvers are downwind. I put in perspective, where that tree is, where that telephone pole, or
Lights are on.
where I want to put my maneuvers here, and then I kind of go through it mentally, out there in the circle. Just kind of before I go out to fly, I'm out there in the middle of the circle and just kind of getting a rough idea of where the wind's coming from, where I'm going to do the pattern. Okay, the triangle's going to be here, top, trees are here. It's pretty much the same aerobatic dance that full-scale pilots will do.
Yeah, the one thing with full-scale pilots, so they change up their pattern between different deals, so they have to remember what ones come next.
Yeah, the Rescue system.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to where you do 3 loops and then you do inverted flight every time and then you do the other loops and then you know, it may end with a different maneuver. It may start with a different maneuver. They got to get that in their heads to where.
Well, I know what you're talking about because I've seen them do that. They actually walk through it, and you see them moving their body, and they're to simulate what it's going to be. The difference here is that they're in the airplane.
All right.
You know, we're in the center of the circle. There are some things that correlate between those two things. It's called imaging. Robbie used to do it a lot. It's called dry flying. You actually fly the whole pattern without the airplane. You just turn around a circle and you visualize each maneuver, and you do it slowly at first so you get it dead perfect, and then you can speed it up and speed it up and speed it up. So yeah, it does work. The same idea works, but it's not done in the same manner because, again, we're not sitting in our airplanes looking out over the hood.
Right.
At least we better.
Samantha says she flies three patterns before she goes to sleep every night.
There you go.
When she's flying. That when she's laying in bed, she goes, no one can see me. She goes, my arms out. She goes, my eyes are closed. I'm flying this pattern.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know? Imaging is a big part of it, too. There's so many facets to this, you know, to do it, not just equipment-wise, but mentally and even orally. I mean, I was talking to Phil Granderson, and he says he's not a visual person. He's more of an oral person. He hears the maneuvers, and that's how he flies. He listens to the airplane and to the motor, and that's how he flies his pattern, is with his ears. And that's interesting to know because we all assume that everybody does it the way we do it, you know, right, yeah. And everybody may have a different way of approaching this.
Yeah. My approach is like, there's the maneuver for your the train on a choo-choo train on the rails, more or less, right? Yeah. So I visualize the maneuver and then fly them.
Track of the maneuver, yeah. I used to do that too. I visualized the track and I tried to fly it right on that track.
Yep. That's
not a bad way of doing it.
When I was first getting into flying, I had to make myself get out of the habit of doing that while I was driving the damn car. Was,
not today. Well, he crashed in an hour.
And at night, like you said, Samantha, I love to fly because I fly a hell of a lot better in my head than I do out at the field.
I keep crashing.
We are all perfect.
I keep crashing when I'm visualizing, so I stop that.
You got a problem.
That's pretty sad when you visualize.
Hey, listen, Mike Lanke's with us. How you doing tonight, Mike?
I'm doing good, fellas. Want to show you something.
All right. Okay.
Did you get your PA motor?
Everybody click on Mike.
PA 61.
You got one.
PA 65.
Oh, God. Congratulations.
Which one was the top one?
You finally get that, Mike.
This one here, this is a 61. I believe this to be unrun, brand new. Doesn't look like it's had any. Doesn't look like it's had any fuel in it. The mounting lugs are in great shape.
They are.
Hasn't been drilled out. Like I said, I don't think this one has seen fuel yet. The 65 has definitely been run. You can tell by the header.
Yeah.
There's some caster on there, but overall, it's in really good shape too. I don't think it has a lot of time on it.
Not with a header being that clean.
And the only issue is these holes have been hogged out pretty bad. I actually put a drill bit in them, and they were hogged out to 9/64 drill bit.
You sure that wasn't one of Werwich's motors?
Yeah, it probably is.
No, it was not one of Werwich's.
If he does that to his engine mounts, he moves them all over the place in the airplane.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But anyway.
What'd you end up paying for?
Oh, that's between me and the...
You got a good deal. Okay. That's all that matters.
Well, they weren't cheap, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
They weren't cheap.
Those PA engines are, they're not. They're.
But the other side is the two airplanes that I got, one of them already has a header and a pipe in it. So I can drop either of these motors in because the mounting holes are the same. And this one that has a pipe, I'm going to fit it in the airplane probably this weekend and see if it's the correct route on the header. I'm hoping it is. I held it up to the other one. It looks very similar, so I'm hoping I'm in good shape. And all I got to do is get a pipe for this one from Randy, and then I'll have 2 SV22s ready to go.
Wow.
So the only issue with one of these engines, show you if I can, is the 65, the used one. It did not have a spinner or a prop nut on it, and also there's a little cone that goes in here that goes up against the bearing.
Okay.
There's a little bracket behind the thrust washer, and it's missing on this one. So I think I'll have to. I'm sure Randy can hook me up with one of those. But I'm glad I noticed that, because if I'd have stuck a prop on there and just tried to run it, it probably would have been very bad. So.
Well, here, I'll show you. This is a brand new, I don't know. It was a brand new motor in the box that I sent to Billy because he wanted to try it.
Came back 4-inch holes in the.
Okay.
Wow.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, I know this. I recognize that as a Billy motor.
And that's how longer my header is now too.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
I love
sure.
that before.
Instead of cutting the pipe, you cut my header off.
Yeah. Hey, Bob Hunt, is there any way to bush those holes? Because the mounting bolts for these airplanes are 440s. Should I try to bush these holes?
Put a plate. Just put a plate over it. Put the screws to the plate. It'll
Put
be
a
right.
plate. Okay. Okay.
Right.
If you don't want to do it that way, get a hold of Dick and tell him the size of the hole. He may even have you drill it out a little bit bigger, and he'll make bushings. I'm trying to think. Oh, it's in an airplane right now. I got a Rojet 76. He over drilled them, makes it out of octagon stock. They look great. Sets them in there, and then they're back to perfect.
But eventually, you're going to want to move the engine around. You're going to drill those out so you can move the engine around. You're going to want to.
They can move it around more.
Yeah,
but usually, when somebody does it, like Billy does, he does it to the back, so it's pulling on the back of that, and just washers and screws hold it in place. It doesn't move around.
No.
And so he puts that so he can offset it, but he grinds them to the back of it and then turns it so the screws are always holding against the metal, pulling on it. And the washers are just keep the 440 head from going down through the hole.
All right. So I should just use an aluminum motor mount pad on there or something?
Yeah, like that. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can
Well,
steal
that's
one.
what I'll do.
Good.
I think you might just get away with it by just using the 440s, put a flat washer underneath it.
Yeah, that's all we ever used.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
as long as the hole's not so big that when you squeeze down on the washer, it collapses the washer into the hole. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
I want to use like a fender washer that has more area.
Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, you know what else might be good is just use a blind nut. Drill out a blind nut and put it in there.
2 washers will work as well.
Yeah, 2 washers will work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get these in these airplanes this weekend and go from there.
Yeah, congratulations, man. It's awesome.
I've been doing some research motor.
I waited a long time for these things. That's for
I don't know
sure.
if anybody can see that.
Yeah, that's in focus.
Weighing some motors and weighing them out and such. Now, clear to the bottom is stats from a Super Chipmunk that I bought from an auction, and I modified it. It
Go
was
back to the top of that list for a second. Fox 35, 6 ounces. I mean, when I cut up those Fox 35 for tip weight, I'm only getting 6 ounces worth of tip weight out of them.
Okay, so I just showed you guys a Billy motor, right? That he got put in his. Now here's a Windy.
Okay. Okay.
On this picture,
Wow.
holding the motor up.
Hang on.
This is so thin back there that ain't nothing. That one's right on through.
Oh, that's pathetic.
Yeah, well, the motor doesn't go fore and aft. You know, it's not going to pull out. So
No, once they just put it in, adjust it, and tighten it down. I mean, that's why. I don't know. They ground the fins out on the side, so when the motor went in there, it didn't hit nothing.
Yep.
But they flew in a lot of really good patterns, and I never seen a video of a motor flying out of one of their airplanes.
Nope.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Picture, yeah.
Bob, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Bottom.
Did you ever find yourself in a situation where the new plane that you just built is such a drastic change in the way it flies compared to what you had before, to the point that you actually had to relearn how to fly?
Yeah, I a couple of times actually. When I went from the straight trailing edge airplanes to the swept forward trailing edge airplanes, there was a tremendous difference in the way you set them up and the feeling of the airplane. First off, they did, you know, the straight trailing edge airplanes would always have a tremendous amount of stick pressure at the bottom of maneuvers and heavy wind. And I had to get used to having zero stick pressure on the swept forward trailing edge wings. They just wouldn't build up stick pressure at all. So that was a difference, you know. Plus the fact that I had to, the pitch center of gravity on the swept forward trailing edge airplanes is much further forward because of the essentially the way that the swept forward flaps don't move the center of pressure as far aft when they deploy as a straight trailing edge airplane does. And because of that, you know, you have an airplane you can actually carry more nose weight in and still get a tight corner out of. So that wasn't a bit of a change for me, and it took me a while to get used to it.
So basically, you have to relearn the way you fly and adjust your flying style to the.
To a degree, I mean, you don't have to learn completely from scratch, but yeah, there is a difference in feel. It's like going from a sports car to a NASCAR stocker or something, or a Formula One car to a Indy car. I'm sure there's differences, you know.
Yeah,
but you catch up, you know.
Yeah, because I feel like I have just jumped like from a twister to an SV11.
There you go.
Like the other way around, from an SV11 to this plane. It's a huge jump.
Yeah.
And what I find out is that the way I was flying, I'm still flying the way I was flying before, and it shows like the way the plane flies. But I know there's so much more potential in there that I'm not even starting to tap into it yet.
It's kind of a good thing, because you think, well, this is so much different, but I can tell it's going to be a whole lot better, you know, that's always a good thing. The bad thing is when you go from an airplane that's really good to one that's hard to fly, and you can tell it's never going to be a good airplane. That's the really bad thing, you know. I've only had a couple of those.
That's perhaps a good spot to say on it and go back to what you did before.
Yeah. Those are the airplanes. What do you call it? You sell them.
Yeah.
Bob Zambelli just brings them out to the field.
Just the nose.
Bob Zambelli just brings them out to the field and throws them on the ground and says, "This thing sucks. Anybody want it?" And
Gene Schaefer had an interesting way of dealing with airplanes that were what we call semi-bombs. If he couldn't trim it out in 3 flights, he would do a wing over and not pull out.
Wow.
Straight in on the asphalt. And one day, this is God's honest truth. He had this was like about 1970, I guess. He had a stunt machine, and it wouldn't trim out. It was a bubble canopy stunt machine. No one ever saw it because it was only 3 flights old when he crashed it. And when he hit the ground, the engine, it was a Max 35. Max 35 hit the asphalt, broke out, flew over, and landed right on top of Bob Lampioni's brand new Sabre jet.
Oh, man.
It just hit the flap. It broke the flap.
So, Mike, where did you get them from, the motors?
From a guy that flies control line.
Can you be any more specific than that?
We're being non-committal tonight, huh?
Hey, I'll ask you a question you can probably answer. What does PA stand for?
Precision arrow.
Oh.
Precision arrow. Nah, I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag on that yet. I'll just keep that to myself.
Oh, you're one of them secretive kind of guys, huh?
Well, the situation in which I came into them wasn't perfect, so I
They were stolen and then sold to you.
What's that?
I said they were stolen and then sold to you.
Yeah, that's it. Let's go with that. They were stolen. Yeah, I was going to ask Bob and Steve. You might know this too. So they got Randy's numbers on. Excuse me. The 65. 212. 212. So I'm assuming that's probably a pretty early one
for sure.
The 61 number 536.
Huh?
So I wonder, how many of these has Randy made? Has he made 500?
A lot. Oh yeah, way more than that because the Japanese guys were buying by the case.
Oh, okay.
Big cases of them, And he sold them in Brazil and he sold them all over the world,
Okay, all right. I just figured with the number 200 or so, that's probably an early 65, a late batch 61.
Well, I'm sure he sold more 61s than 65s and more 65s than 75 because they're progressively newer engines. But he sold a pile of them.
Well, I know that this Rojet 76 was from the early 2000s, and this one is at 1,086.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess did he number them?
Or something.
500 for 61s, and then did he have? Did he just number them by it's the engine number, whether it's a Aero Tiger or a PA or whatever?
Even the F-22 has a gun on it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how he numbered them. More than likely each size started with number 1. I would think.
That's what I'm wondering. Like I've got 2 Aero Tigers and
okay, shoot down the enemy.
like number 100, Mac Henry. The Aero Tiger I bought from him 5 years ago, number 250, something like that.
Is that the one he had in his Stuka?
It is. Yeah, it is, Bob. Yes, I bought the Aero Tiger that was in his Stuka. Actually, I bought 2 Aero Tigers from Mac. One of them belonged to Marshall, and another buddy of mine that I fly with. We bought the pair from Mac Henry. So.
Yeah. Mac's a good guy. How's he doing?
He's doing all right. I stopped in and saw him, I don't know, about 5 weeks ago. I was for a motorcycle ride, and I was driving by his house, so I popped in and saw him and Andrew for a little bit. Yeah, he's doing okay. I mean, he's still kicking, still getting around, still cusses like a sailor.
He's a great guy.
But he ain't
a couple of world teams with him. He was a judge at Combat World, and he's a lot of fun to be on a trip like that with.
Yeah, I wish I'd have known him 20 years ago,
Yeah, he's a pisser.
I really do.
Thumb's healing up pretty good.
He's not shy.
No, he ain't shy. No, he ain't shy. I'm sure he was hell on wheels back in the day.
Oh, man.
So, but yeah, I got quite a bit of his stuff, and I sold a bunch of his stuff for him when he had to move out of his place in Nashville, and because he wasn't taking it with him. I basically cleaned out his entire workshop, and he gave me some shop tools and some balsa and quite a few old combat planes and things like that. And
he used to fly with a guy named David Owen. Is he still around?
Yeah, don't get me started on him.
Okay.
He turned out not to be such a swell guy.
Really? I didn't know him that well. I just know they flew together.
They did, and Dave kind of burned him. And I'm not afraid to tell the story. When Mac moved out of his house into his new house, because he built a brand new home about 4 miles away from me. So he was leaving his Nashville home. David and a couple other losers came over to his place the week before he was going to move, and they took all this. Mac gave him all this stuff, shop tools and a lathe and motors, a lot of high zoot motors, combat stuff.
Mm-hmm.
with the agreement that they would come back that weekend and help Mac clean out his shop because everything had to be out of there on Monday.
They didn't help.
Well, Saturday morning rolls around. I get a phone call from Mac. Mike, I need your help. Dave and the other guys didn't show up. I got to get my shop empty. So I went over there by myself with my truck and trailer. And I spent 2 days, all day Saturday and all day Sunday, filling up my trailer and taking shit to the dump for Mac.
Wow.
David Owen and these other guys didn't show up. Now they showed up on Wednesday to get their pick of the litter from his shop.
Yeah.
They went in and raided his shop and took all the good shit, and then they never showed up to help him move. So David Owen he's a piece of shit, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Well, like I said, I didn't know David that well. I just knew they flew together back in those days. You know.
Mac met David when David was a teenager and flew with him all his life.
Yeah.
His whole life, David flew with Mac, and that's how he done him dirty at the end like that. He wouldn't answer his phone. He wouldn't return any phone calls. Mac still hasn't talked to him. It's been 2 years. And
wow.
David went over there and got, like I said, a bunch of high zoot engines and some really nice shots and never came back. So I'm waiting to see David at the combat circle someday. I really want to tell him what I think of him. There's that.
Well, say hello to Mac for me.
I will.
I'm going to show you. All right, this is what I set up for a test stand.
Ah, okay.
You know, just from Brodex sells these deals and just glued it on a board, epoxied it to it. There's the amp and watt meter.
Yeah.
And then just that simple little Huron timer that you just set with a deal and hit the button. It'll come on and you hit it again and it's done.
I see.
But I also use it to discharge my batteries.
Oh, I see. This is what I have. Okay, can you see that? What am I showing you here? Okay. So this is what I have right now. I just put a plate here. It has 2 bolts in the front on the plate. I mount my motor over there and just clamp it down with this. And
you run it right in your shop?
Yeah.
I tell you, the first time I started an electric motor and a stunt shop in my shop, when I was thinking about it, it was like a dust cloud. It took me 2 weeks to clean my motorcycle. So
I bet.
You had a little bit of a dust issue over there?
Huh? I thought my shop was clean, and then I didn't know what I had, you know. It picked up dust from everywhere in that shop and put it all over my Beamer and my Hayabusa, and just a mess.
Well, every time if I just run a prime out of a motor in my shop, the smoke alarm goes off, and of course, there's a smoke alarm in every room in the house, and they're all linked together now.
Yeah.
So the entire house go off at the same time.
Nice.
Yeah, no, not. If I forget to open glue on the fireplace, get all the smoke alarms going off, it wakes everybody up.
We once set smoke alarms off in a motel by using too much CA glue.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, there was a deal where when I was at Flying Models magazine, my giant scale columnist, Frank Costello, was told by his wife to take all his excess airplanes to Toledo and sell them at the auction and not buy anything else. So the very first thing he did when he got there was buy this giant scale Zeroli DC-3, 15-foot wingspan DC-3. And I said, I thought your wife said not to buy anything. She said, oh, I can see this past her. And that was like waving a red flag in front of a bull to me, Pappas, and Richie and I. And what we did was we got a whole bunch of guys together. When we knew he was going to be out at the auction, we broke into his room and we built the airplane. And we had a whole, like 20 guys come in, Dave Platt and Bob Gialdini and all the guys from SIG. And we had cases of CA and we used the doors. We took the doors down and used them as building boards. We had so much CA going off that the smoke alarm from the place went off.
Holy cow.
We called it a gang build. Great Toledo gang build.
Oh my goodness.
Well, all you gotta do is just bag your smoke detector. I do it all the time at work.
We didn't know anything about those.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I thought about doing that.
That was 1984, so you know.
Just remember to unbag it when you're done.
Yeah. Hey Bob, you want to break into my house and build me a couple of stunt ships? You guys can. You can set off my smoke alarms all day long with CA, man. And
well, it's funny because this airplane had to be built like a big giant, rubber-powered scale airplane. It had a keel down the center and these huge formers. And the formers are like, I don't know, almost 2 feet in diameter, you know. And they had the center of them was glued to a keel, and then half the former was below the keel and half was above. So how were we going to build this thing? Well, what do you have in motel rooms? You got Bibles and you have phone books. And we went around and gathered all the Bibles and all the phone books we could, so we could stack up the jig plate so that the formers wouldn't hit the table. And the next morning we had Bibles stacked up like 1.5 feet or like 3 feet high, and phone books stacked up like 3 feet high. And the maid must have thought it was some kind of strange religious cult that worshipped AT&T. You know?
How much did you get built?
Huh?
How much of this thing did you get built?
The whole airframe, everything. It's a tube wing. We had the tubes. It was huge. And the guys from SIG built the tailplanes. All the pattern guys built the wings, and the scale guys built the fuselage.
And this was at Toledo?
It was at Toledo. One night, 4.5 hours to build this airplane. And then the next day, we took it into the kit manufacturer, and he put it up over his booth, and he put a sign on it that said, "This airplane could be built in one evening."
What year was that?
By 100 people, maybe.
What was that?
What year was that, Bob?
1984.
84. I was there. I was at Toledo that year because I'm from Detroit originally.
Mm-hmm.
So the Toledo swap meet was always a big thing for the Detroit club. We would always go down there for that. That's back when it was at the old sports arena.
It was it was Hangar One Hobbies. It was at the hockey rink, you know.
The hockey rink. Yep.
Hangar One Hobbies, and we put it up over his booth. And he was nice. He gave Frank another kit. This is Frank Costello. He gave him another kit because he got so much publicity out of this deal. You know, We did an article in the magazine about it. We have a video of it and everything.
Well, I don't remember seeing the airplane at the booth, but I know I was definitely there. I was a junior in high school, and I would have been there with my dad.
Yeah.
I love the Toledo show.
You were a junior in high school. Now you're really making me feel old.
Yeah, I was a junior in 1984, so I was. But I mean, I started going. Dad and I. What was the first year of that?
Oh gosh, it was back in the 60s, I think.
I think the first year we went would have been about 74 or 75. I was 7 years old. Well, the first time I be there.
I remember being on the floor of the hockey rink, which they didn't have ice on it. We had our booth there, and I remember watching the TV monitors when we were on the hockey rink floor when America beat Russia in the Olympics.
Yeah, it's always April. It's always first weekend in April.
Yeah, and we were on the hockey rink floor watching a hockey game. How cool was that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great swap meet. I think the last time I went was probably 2003. It was just right before I moved down here to Tennessee.
It's taken a nosedive.
Yeah,
it's really taken a nosedive.
Well, I don't know. The Detroit guys still go. My combat buddies still go, and they get some pretty good deals on motors and stuff.
What I mean is the attendance is not what it used to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, they moved it over to the Civic Center now. It left the sports arena years ago.
Yeah, I know.
The sports arena is not even there anymore. It's tore down.
Oh, right. Is it? Okay.
You know who I met in that sports arena and talked to for about half an hour was Roy Orbison.
Oh, that's where you talked to Roy at? Was there?
Roy in the annex.
I remember that story from the
old annex building. And I saw him over there, and I said, "Are you Roy Orbison?" He says, "Yeah, I am." I said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I fly model airplane."
Did any of you guys read the article in the last Model Aviation about Roy Orbison's last day?
No.
Did you not get last month's Model Aviation?
I did, but I don't read it.
Okay, well, you need to read it. You need to read it. There is an article in there written by a guy whose dad opened Hobby Lobby. Not
What?
Hobby Lobby, the craft store, but actual
No,
Hobby
yeah,
Lobby.
yeah.
You know,
my
they
dad-
were just a order by mail hobby shop forever. They had one retail location, and it was here in Nashville, Tennessee. It was in Brentwood, and it was actually still open up until 2 or 3 years ago. The building's gone and it's bulldozed now. But anyway, there's an article in Model Aviation about this guy who worked at Hobby Lobby, and back in 1984, I think it was 84 or 85, Roy Orbison went into Hobby Lobby in Brentwood here in Nashville, bought $1,800 worth of modeling equipment, and the guy helped him carry it out to his truck, and he drove off. And according to the article, the guy heard on the radio that Roy Orbison had died in his sleep that night. The day before he died, he bought a bunch of radio control equipment at
That
Hobby.
makes sense too, because when I met him, it was right in that same time frame, and he agreed to an interview. I said, "Can we have an interview?" He said, "Sure." And he gave me his manager's number. He gave me a card, and then we found out he had died. Yeah. Hobby Lobby was one of our advertisers at Flying Model for years and years and years. I used to order lots of stuff from Hobby Lobby.
In that article in Model Airplane magazine about Roy Orbison, it says a date of 1988.
It was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking it up right now.
One of those years they all kind of run together.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought that was interesting that I didn't know Roy Orbison was a modeler. I mean, I knew he lived here in Nashville during his last time, but yeah, he was, because I believe no, I'm sorry, that was David Bowie. I just saw a picture of David Bowie doing pre-flight rubber stuff when he was in his 20s.
Yeah.
David Bowie was a modeler too.
Yeah, a lot of musicians were modelers. Roy flew giant scale, by the way. He flew giant scale airplanes. But you know, East Frehley from Kiss, he's a helicopter pilot. And Tom Schultz from Boston, he's an RC flyer. There's a number of them that fly. Even Clapton used to do a lot of airplanes when he was a kid.
Bob, I have a question for you
guys. I mean,
now that
just normal people when they first start out, they just become rich later in life. And
normal people, then they become musicians, and they're not normal anymore.
Yeah. Start out normal.
Did people see the picture of the smoothie, the green wing?
I started to click it up, and then you took it down. Let's see it again.
Where's that?
Smoothie I'm working on.
There you go.
Hang on, let me share it with everybody.
Teal green, teal blue, and teal red.
Very nice.
Yeah.
The bottom here is going to have white down the center of this.
Okay.
It'll look kind of a 3D look to it. And as far as what's going to go on the wing, as far as I'm going to probably put something my traditional checkerboard on the bottom of the wing, like all my big stunner has, but something different on the wing itself.
Yeah.
So,
I like something on the bottom that stands out while you're doing a wing over.
Yeah. Well, most of my stunners, they usually have a checkerboard rudder, and the bottom of the wings, they're just the outboard tips of them are checkerboard. So that's what I'm going to go with this. So
I never do my airplanes in green. They're too hard to find in the grass.
You mean the pieces?
Yeah. Then.
Well, I went with the checkerboard rudder because, you know, you see a plane like this, you know, out there, and what's really going to grab your attention is that checkerboard rudder, and that's really going to stand out for you. and as well as for the judges to see it. Then when it's in maneuvers, they see a green airplane with a white center to it.
Yeah.
In here. But when they see it from the top angle, they see a totally different look to it. So it's like that 3-dimension to it.
Very cool.
Think you're going to get the Tomcat completed tonight?
Oh no.
Looks like.
So I've been spending too much time listening to you guys and work on this.
A buddy of mine that used to fly pattern always said never put any horizontal lines on your airplane because everybody did that to see if it was level. He goes, you just realize that the judges can see if it's level too when they're judging you.
Yeah, but if you're a good flyer, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Well, with that checkerboard rudder that's out there, that'll really stand out against a shadow, or like you're flying in with the trees or something. You got a dark airplane. A rudder is going to stick out, and you'll be able to see the plane a lot, easier and such.
I always like straight line flip. I like to have a dark top block, a dark bottom block, and a light center, so the judges can see, the definition of square maneuvers. They can see when the airplane locks in full flight. It's a natural thing for their eye to see a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, the better you fly, the more you can get stuff in straight lines. When you're in intermediate stuff, put them on angles. Everything looks double.
Well,
yeah, we were flying against trees out at Fort Jackson and had to put invasion stripes on those green Brodak P40 ARFs so you could see it in the trees, and that worked out pretty good.
Funny.
Well, my FB11 is it's all blue, but the underboard of the wings are checkerboard on the out tips of the wing. So when it's going up in maneuvers, you see a checkerboard wing on the very end. But when it's coming down, it has a stripe down the side of the wings. But in level flight, you see a checkerboard rudder. So it really stands out. It's really different. When I watch somebody else fly my airplane and I'm outside the circle, it's really different. So
Mike, when are we going to get a video on you flying them new airplanes? You got motors? Got everything? Next week?
It's cold. It's cold here, man. It's not flyable.
Oh, it's going to warm up next week. That's what I mean.
Well, I still got to get. I don't have props. I got to call Randy and get props. I could probably get one of them going this weekend if I had props. But I don't have any. I got one.
I don't know. You got Bob McDonald's? You need to get Bob McDonald's number. He's got props for both of them engines.
Well, hey, Bob, I got a Volley 13 4.5 blade. Will that work on a PA?
13. Oh, yeah. That's a lot of disc. I guess it will work. Yeah.
Private.
Well, apparently
65.
It was on the 65. It was on one of these airplanes.
Yeah, that'll work. We had to play with it a little bit.
We were on the subject of test stands for electric motors. I have a question for you guys. And the question is, most motors are rated for a certain voltage from like say for 4S maximum or 6S battery maximum, whatever, but they also have these amperage ratings for each motor. So many amps maximum continuous and so many amps maximum for whatever, and and in particular, in my motors are rated for like 15-second maximum at this amperage. The question I have is, do you really worry about the voltage as long as you don't max the amperage out, or can I, if I have a motor that's rated for a lower voltage, to go to a higher voltage, and as long as I keep an eye on an amperage, not to exceed it, am I okay or not?
You're asking me?
In general, whoever knows.
Well, I wasn't really listening. I'm trying to do a screen share here, and I'm trying to figure out how to do a screen share.
I think current is what actually.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. It's the current that's going to burn out the line.
Happen. So amperage, I believe.
So as long as I don't max the amperage, so I can, even if my motor is rated for a 5S system, I can still put a 6S battery on it and see how much I can crank it up until I reach that maximum continuous amps that the motor is rated for. That's what I'm looking for, right?
I would think so, because
if you look at
Cobra's deal, their windings at a certain deal, they'll go, 5 cell, 6 cell, and you see the propeller getting real small. So they're doing on amperage, and I just can't believe their motors are the only ones that you can run different cells on. To where I think a lot of these where it says 4 cell max, they don't want you to. They know you're going to burn the motor up. You can't. They don't have test stands, so people are gonna put that motor on there and throw a 11-inch prop on there, and then you got nothing but smoke coming out of it.
So at best they are safe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense, because the reason for which I'm asking is because when I test these motors, I also want to find out what's the max RPM I can get out of it. So when I program my ESCs, knowing that maximum RPM, I can say to the ESC, don't go past that, per se. And also knowing that in the air the motor is gonna unload a little bit, because the angle of attack matches the pitch of the propeller and has a lot less drag. Also, the amperage is gonna drop in flight compared to what's on the ground.
Right.
So I don't think I'm wrong on this one, but I think, like somebody said, something as much as 20% less in the air than what you get on the ground.
Yeah, I think it could be that or more, but you got to remember when you turn corners. But I don't think your max amperage then would go up that high.
Yes, but they are also rated 15-second maximum at a certain amperage, which is almost 50% more of the maximum continuous. So it's quite a big difference between the maximum continuous and the maximum for 15 seconds rating. So it's a huge gap over there. So if it's 40 amps on maximum continuous, 15-second burst can be 55, 60 amps.
Bob, don't push any buttons or do anything. I'm trying to let you in here.
Yeah. The other thing you think of is that, if it's 15 seconds at 50 amps, it may only be 5 seconds at 55 amps if you went over that max burst.
There you go.
Yes.
There you're in.
And then you get to where you get too far amps over it, it's going to be a 1 second burst. And as soon as you do it, it's going to whoop, and that's going to be it.
Yes. Well, what I'm thinking about, if I'm setting my maximum RPM for what's continuous maximum amps on the ground, in the air I should be safe.
Yeah, I would think that's what unloading's all about. Yeah.
Okay.
I would think you would draw less current when the prop's unloaded in the air.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, one thing is like with that test stand of mine, I looked at it and didn't see that much difference. I'd hold it in my hand and bring it up and down and see if it really changed how many amps it would take. And it I know it's not moving, but it really didn't change it that much.
Okay. So
I don't know how much
what's on the ground is pretty much what's in the air.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, but most of all this is rated for RC.
Yeah.
You got a throttle to where if you max out the throttle, you only want to do it for so many seconds and back off.
Mm-hmm. I understand that. Yeah.
You know, I
In
don't
our
know.
climbs, it would rise. I don't know how much the current would rise, but it's certainly not 15 seconds or something like that. So,
But you'd almost have to use the castle type of deal that you can check in the air.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yes.
pull it up, you can see how much it's raising your.
Yeah.
You might go over somebody else's data and
Mm-hmm.
see about how much it does raise your amperage when you're flying and you go up.
Yeah.
Is it an average of 2 or is it an average of 10?
I would like to get my hands on one of those testers, those modules that you can plug in your plane, and they actually have sensors that you can plug into them for RPM. They're going to give you pretty
telemetry.
accurate data in flight as of what's the input that comes from the receiver. In our case, is going to come from the timer. How the motor responds, what's the amperage used, what's the, they give you all kind of data, what kind of, it's called the Eagle Tree Logger, which I saw.
Yeah, I guess it's like sending telemetry all about your machine. So that sounds like a great thing to have.
Yeah, what you could do is get you a transmitter and stuff with that. Put it in there and then read it on the transmitter.
I have
that way.
I have that. I have a Tyrannus, and I can probably buy those sensors that do all of that stuff.
You just have to add it, and do it, and then later on you can pull it back out. You didn't want to keep it in there.
Mm-hmm.
But,
oh yeah, of course,
Yeah.
Perhaps another cool part of it would be to, since you have the transmitter next to you, you can set the RPMs quickly, land the plane, and then you know what to program in there.
That was another thing, Jeff Trucks, where I never got over there to see his test stand, but somehow I think he got it from Hobby King, and it actually has a thrust meter in it. So when he builds propellers and stuff, if they're the same pitch, same diameter, whatever, different style blades, he can actually check to see the thrust out of them propellers.
Yeah, I've seen those too. Yes, I've seen on the Hobby King website.
Did that picture come up?
It did, but it's upside down. You got to turn that over.
Oh, well, I'm upside down too. I just wanted to show how that straight line trim, enhances the appearance of level flight, or after you turn a corner and things.
Yeah.
Right.
You got down thrust on the prop, it looks like, too.
What's that?
Looks like you've got down thrust on the prop, too.
Look at that prop bend. He may have just came out of that corner. Look at that.
That's all optical. It's all optical illusion.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that prop really isn't coming forward?
I don't think so.
There's
a slight angle to the airplane too from where the photo is being taken. So you're seeing, forward on the blade. If you'll notice, the wing is past the focal plane of the camera there. So you're looking at the backside of the prop.
Yeah. Let's see.
You're not looking at the picture perpendicular to the plane.
Right. You're not perpendicular to the camera, exactly.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But it just gives you an idea about the straight line trim and how it enhances, the level flight in the corners and everything. So
the other thing is too is that you see people, you watch their airplanes when they're one direction, they seem to be nice and flat, and they flip over and they're tail down a little bit or tail up a little bit or whatever, on.
Yeah.
That's incidence of the tail or.
Well, it's the fact that the airplanes actually are flying a little tail down, because an airplane, with a symmetrical wing and 0 degree incidence, it has to drop. The tail of the airplane has to drop until there's an angle of attack to make the airplane fly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, otherwise you get no lift.
Right.
Metric.
But I've
you have
seen
to have a little bit of nose up in normal flight and a little bit of if you can think about nose down in inverted flight, which basically makes it nose up again when it's inverted.
Right, exactly. It's subtle. It's subtle. On some airplanes, you know, it looks more pronounced than in others.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of wondering if that's because of landing gear and wheels.
Here's a good example of it.
Pulling one way over the other.
Does that show up?
Not yet.
Not yet. Still see you.
Hold on. Well, that's unfortunate. You still see me.
Well, I want to say something about it, but I was being nice about it.
Why start now?
Oh, wow, I like that. I like that paint scheme.
Now you see how the tail is slightly down?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So, and that's level flight. So that's a good example of what we were just talking about. But it's also a good example of that straight line trim, you know.
Yeah.
Bob, I always liked your paint jobs that you put on the plane and your.
They're simple.
Yeah,
they are.
That almost looks like dark blue or black on that one.
It's dark blue, yeah.
But
I see that your shirt matches too.
You run out of that bronze, did you, Bob?
Yeah, I stopped using the bronze a long time ago. You guys got to stop doing this now, you know? I went to red, white, and blue for a long, long time.
I know it. I just got to yank your chain a little bit.
I know. I'm used to it. Now, you've heard the story. I'm sure I've told this story here before. Before the people who haven't heard the story, this is a good story. This is an absolutely true story. I started painting my airplanes with that bronze or copper. I never actually did one in bronze. They were all copper or dark brown. But at any rate, my father was an automation engineer, and he had a job from U.S. bronze powders to package vials of their powders in all different colors. And they sent him cases and cases of this stuff, these little vials of powder. And he said to me one day, he said, I bet you if you take one of these powder vials and put it in dope, you could mix it up and use it as a color. And I said, well, I wouldn't want the whole airplane that color. I said, well, maybe a trim, you know. So I actually did the first Genesis with that copper and the red and the black. And he loved it. I was kind of ambivalent about it, but he loved it. It was my dad. So I figured, okay, I'll just paint my airplanes this way. And over the years, I had maybe 20 of them that in some way, shape, or form were bronze or metallic brown or whatever, red, white, and black. And Billy Burwich hated it. He just hated it. He said, I don't want to see any more of them earth tones and bronze tones. He says, I want to see bright colors. And just because he didn't like it, I just kept doing it just to annoy him. And then in 1993, we got our first golden retriever. And I called him up and I said, guess what, Billy? I even have a bronze dog. And he said, you've had a lot of the true story.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
I always liked them. I mean, because you're an individual and you could tell your airplane, I mean, always be red, white, and blue or whatever, you know.
Yeah, man. You know, it was me, you know, and I took a lot of hammering because of it over the years.
What I like about your planes is the balance that you use to make the stripings. You just right amount of color on the wing, just the right amount of color on the fuselage. Nothing overpowers anything else, you know, just like it's the harmony of it.
I have to kind of credit Billy Simons with that. He was the one that kind of taught me about color spacings between colors on a model airplane, and why you put so much space between them is because when you're, let me see if I can turn this off. I'm trying to turn off a thing here. When you're, oh, here it is. When you're up close to an airplane, having close separations or small separations between colors, that's pretty good because you can see them. But when you're 140 feet away, like a judge is, you can't see small separations of color. You can only see large things. So he said, always make them, you know, wide separations and bold colors and not a lot of intricate stuff, because the intricate stuff from 140 feet away just looks like a bunch of puke on the wind. He says you have few colors and defined lines and big blocks of color. He says the judge can see that. So that's why I did it. And Billy Simons' influence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I see in your planes on top of that is just kind of like it's a color pattern that makes more sense than anything else.
They're simple.
Yeah, it's like, and it kind of
Hey,
maybe
I'm
I'm saying
simple.
this because you're almost my philosophy. My philosophy is like, if you look at all the planes that really look good on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably, if you look on a fuselage and you take that side view of the fuselage pattern of stripes and whatever, and you flip it over and slam it onto the wings, you're probably gonna see very similar stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the balance. You have this much proportion of color, one color on a fuselage. You kind of copy it and transpose it to the wing, and it gives a plane a very nice balance and a beauty to it, right?
Yeah,
I think elegant is a
they
good
look friendly.
description for it.
Yes, and another thing it does is it has, you know, when you have something in one place, you want to find it somewhere else as well. So if you put stripes on a fuselage, maybe you can have stripes on the wings as well. If you have an interruption on a Cosminato, it's a Blue Max, it's a plain example of that. If you look on a side view of the fuselage, when he interrupt the stripes, maybe certain blocks and stuff like that, he follow it on a wing as well, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you have this balance of overall. And another thing that I really like when some few people do this, some people do them way too much when they put the panel lines on the plane. They put toilet seats and God knows what else over there, and and I'm looking at it. I'm like I'm shaking my head. I'm going like, you're killing me, dude. You know, it's like I think when you make panel lines on a plane, any plane, they have to make sense.
Yep.
Like if a real plane has the panels, has a leading edge, has some air brakes, perhaps, right? If you want to replicate that, but it has to make sense. You know, you don't put doors in the middle of the wing or doors all over the fuselage, or just to make more lines over there, because it just doesn't make any sense. So, so you have to have balance in what you're doing, and I think. However, there are some people that do these different paint jobs um, that are so unbalanced but beautiful at the same time. I mean,
leave that up there for a minute, Bob.
Les McDonald was a great one for doing balanced paint jobs. His airplanes were just exquisitely painted.
Yeah, look at the planes in your picture right now that you just showed over there. If you look on the side view of the fuselage, you see exactly the same thing on a wing.
Yeah.
Well, see, in the old days, I think why Bob actually changed his color scheme out too is that in the old days your clothing matched your airplane, and you see his shirt matches some of the trim, but he couldn't find bronze pants, so he had to go to blue.
Well, if you look at this SB11 and in different shades, you'll notice the color between the flaps and the wing, and the stabilizer's the same way.
Okay.
But there's that stripe I was telling you about, and on the top of the wing.
Mm-hmm.
Then the checkerboard on the bottom.
It's too. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You know. I mean, you have to have more harmony than that, right? For example, if you had the stripes on the top of the wing, you might want to put it on the back there. If you have the
that's my favorite
over there, you might as well
right
do the whole thing. You know. I can see a checkerboard on the bottom being completely different from the rest of the plane. Yes, but if you look on a fuselage side view, now you have to find some like that. Just find harmony. You know. Here's what I did on mine, for example.
Well, when you look at the plane coming at you, you can see the checkerboard on the bottom of the wing.
Okay.
Or you don't.
Yeah.
So the checkerboard comes right to the start of the leading edge. So in level flight, when the plane's coming at you, you see a little bit of that checkerboard, but you don't see it on the top.
I see it.
Yeah.
But look at Bob's plane there without the landing gear.
Checkerboard.
How much his wing is in direct line with his tail? Look at Bob's tail without the landing
Checkerboard.
how much his wing is in direct line with his tail?
Not too many people talking to hear anybody.
So
Wow, that looks good, Dorian.
so here, you see that?
Yeah, I see that.
This steam coming down and this way. If you look
Right.
on the wing, kind of the same thing.
Yeah,
Same coming through over there.
I see that.
And like that.
One from the right.
And
Wow.
I
Interesting.
was trying to follow something. It's like if the bottom is kind of bluish. Also on the bottom here, you can find the bottom over here, kind of blue.
Right.
So I'm kind of following something, right? I'm not sure if you can see it here on the top of the tail. That actually, can you see the different colors?
Yeah.
The yellow, the bright yellow there, and the
Yeah,
silver.
it breaks down in a few different stripes. You see that?
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Looks
Now you
good.
can find it here.
Yeah. Oh, I see that too. Yeah. No. Yeah. The center section of the wing. Yeah. But in flight, you probably not
So,
going
like,
to
you
be a
have
tail
the-
that's broken up, though, right?
Yeah, you have the stripe over here. It's actually white with the yellow on the outside.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Look on the side of the fuselage here. You find it again, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm thinking, like having some kind of harmony, you know?
Yeah.
You have, and if you think about the side of the fuselage, okay, you have this shape, right? Kind of crosses underneath, right? Imagine my flap is here, right? And my wing is over here on this other side. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is what I'm talking about. Like, you know, you can have a side view of a fuselage and try to
Incorporate it
get
in
a
the
lot
wing.
of that stuff and put it into the wing, and then you have a nice balance with everything. And it really doesn't matter what you do with it. I mean, just and that's what in the picture that Bob Hahn had with the Caprice. You know, same thing. If you look at the side view of the fuselage, the same color pattern, the same braking, the two stripes that were on the top of the fuselage, everything over there. You can take that and you see it right on the wing. And it looks beautiful and it's balanced and it's simple to do.
It's simple. That's the thing, too. It's simple.
Hey, Bob, that last airplane you had up of your twin?
Yeah.
I was just thinking you could design that for a tri-motor.
Yep.
Try that.
Already been done.
Already been done? A tri-motor electric has already been done?
Actually, no. We drew it up as a tri-motor too, at the insistence of what's his name, the guy from South Africa that does the KR system.
Keith Renical.
Keith Renical. He called. He sent me an email. He said, he sent me a little drawing. He said, you could do this as a tri-motor. I said, yeah, looks pretty cool. One of the things we're going to be doing, and I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag here. My son and I are working on canards. We've been bitten by the canard bug. And I had a canard back in the 80s that flew as well as anything I've ever owned. And we've been doing a lot of research on canards. And we're going to do a twin-engine swept forward wing canard with a monoboom fuselage. And we're going to put a smaller motor that'll drive a prop that's in front of the canard so that we have vectored thrust over the canard.
Oh, you're going to do a pusher puller motor?
No, we're just going to do a 2 counter-rotating twins, just like I had on that one picture I had up there before. But then a prop in the front that puts air blast over the canard to liven up the, the excited air coming over the wings is what really makes our airplanes work. Well, I want to put a lot of excited air right over the canard, so we're going to put a prop in the front. So it will be a tri-motor, but it'll be a small motor that'll drive the one in the front.
Now, are you going to still have your motors on the front part of the wing, or are you going to go?
Yeah, they'll be in the front of the wing. You don't want pushers. You want the air blast over the surfaces.
Oh, okay.
You don't want pushers. Anything. Some people have tried pushers. Danny Banjock tried a pusher, and it didn't work at all because there was no air blast over the wing. The air blast we're getting from the prop is what really makes our airplanes fly and turn and do what they do, because it puts accelerated air over the surfaces. And if you take that prop blast away, you're going to have to fly a lot faster airspeed in order to get the same performance out of the airplane.
You're talking about these pusher props and everything. The P-36 Peacemaker bomber were pushers. From they had like 6 of them, 3 per wing.
Yeah.
What about instead of having a twin engine with the engines like yours there, Mr. Hunt, have the engines behind the wing? Would the airflow over the plane be smoother? As in,
well, yeah, it would be smoother, but the problem is the way you can't compare full-size airplanes to model airplanes. You're flying miniature surfaces in full-scale air, and you need to get more air blast over the surfaces to make them work. And what really makes our airplanes perform the way they do is the accelerated air of the prop going over the surfaces. That really helps a tremendous amount. So full-scale airplanes can get away with a pusher because they're not trying to do square maneuvers in a 70-foot circle. You can make an airplane work with a pusher prop, but you're going to have more airspeed in order to get the same effect as you would have with the prop blast over the surfaces. True, they will fly cleaner. You're flying in cleaner air, no question about it. But like I say, Danny Banjock built a pusher, and so did Dick Sarpolis. And they found out they had to fly a lot higher airspeed in order to get the performance they were getting out of a normal airplane with a prop blast going over the surfaces.
Well, that bomber also, the engines were in the back to clean the air up because they just wanted lift. They weren't looking to do loops or anything else. They just cleaned the air up, and they wanted more lift, from that wing.
Right. The canard I did build, I made it with the same size elevator I normally would make on a standard configuration airplane, and the prop was behind the canard. And the airplane wouldn't turn hardly at all until I made the canard, the movable part of the canard, the actual elevator, almost 4 times normal size in order to get enough, performance out of it, just by pushing it through the air to give an airspeed.
So with this canard, you're going to actually have a elevator and the canard both?
Well, it'd be an elevator on the canard, yeah.
But are you going to have an elevator in the back of the airplane?
Oh, no. Do you have flaps? No. You don't need them. Remember, in a conventional airplane, you're pushing down the tail around the center of gravity to the nose. You have tremendous drag angles of deflection in order to make the airplane turn. You're pushing the tail down to push the nose up. In a canard, you're lifting the nose to lift the airplane. It's all going in one direction. There's no drag. There's like tremendously less drag in a canard.
Yeah, I know. But I was wondering if you had an elevator and a canard. How, it's like a 4-wheel steer.
I think you're really kind of defeating the purpose of the canard.
Oh, okay.
And I'll tell you, this thing turned as tight as anything I've ever owned, and transitioned better than anything I ever owned, because the center of gravity was, pretty much in the center of the center of the mass of the weight was all in the center of the airplane. And boy, that thing transitioned on a dime.
You have a picture of this, Bob, or illustration of it?
Yeah, probably do. I'll see if I can find one.
I kind of think what a canard is, but I'm not really sure.
The last time I did the screen share thing, I screwed up. So give me a minute here.
Sure.
Is that what was happening to you?
Yeah, I was
a couple of times.
I'm still a beginner at this stuff.
Bob, perhaps an idea to test this idea out, you know, to make like a smaller scale plane and with the foam board, if you want to do that.
Well, we've done a bunch of them in small scale, and they've all flown pretty good. But the one I had was actually a built-up wing that flew really good. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold on. I may not be able to find the actual one that I had, but I'll find another one here. I had one called Occam's Razor. And you know what Occam's Razor is, right?
Yeah, it's the simplest thing.
Simplest solution is usually the correct one, so that's why we named it Occam's Razor. Occam's was a physicist. N-O, where is it? N-O. Still trying to find it, guys. Give me a minute here.
No problem.
Bob, did you ever look into that those aerodynamic devices that clean up the air behind the prop, behind the motor? Some people put like a little wing, especially the parent flyers. They put a little wing behind the canopy, just on top of the canopy.
It's called a canalizer, and that doesn't do anything for control line flight. They determined that. I can't seem to find that. Hold on a second. Maybe I have it in a different place.
From what I know, they use it in a pattern flyers to increase the efficiency of the rudder. Okay, because the rudder is flying in clean air rather than turbulent air that comes from the propeller, which I don't know how turbulent is it by the time it gets there, because they have long fuselages.
I've heard it's for knife edge, but I think that, I think a lot of people just do it for looks.
I've never seen a picture of what y'all are talking about, but I can't quite picture in my head how it would have anything to do with cleaning up the air to the rudder.
So you get the RC pattern. They're big in Europe. A lot of the European guys design that.
I guess it could possibly slow the swirl down. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the idea. So now if it flies in clean air, it's more effective on the rudder. But if
you're never going to get
clean air for the rudder, it's also clean air for that's available for the elevator. So
actually, I found a picture of the original Klingon, which is what we called that airplane. Let me see if I can.
Klingon,
yeah, we called it a Klingon, because Klingon is, if you look at a Klingon battleship, it's actually a canard configuration.
Yes, it is.
It is. It's a Klingon battle cruiser has a canard.
Let me see if I can get the screen share thing to work again. There we go.
But they fly in.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, let me click that up.
Huh. Now that was before it had been flown, and that canard elevator, I had to make it like 4 times that size in order to get the performance that you would get out of a regular airplane. But then it worked.
Oh, yeah.
I like the looks of it.
And I flew the son of a gun.
Oh, okay. I see how you do it.
Interesting.
You could hurt yourself with that plane.
Now the problem is you have to have a twin boom configuration to do it with a single engine. But if you use a monoboom in the center, you could use twin engines on either side of the fuselage, and you can get away with a monoboom, which is a lot easier than doing these twin booms,
Yes.
So let me see if I can find another picture of the other one I built. This is what's called Occam's Razor. Let me see if I can get this up.
Now, on your new design, will the canards just be come through the full fuselage?
What's that?
I said on this new design. Well, without using a pusher, though, yeah, you can't really have a full fuselage. It's going to have to.
Oh wow, electric one. All right.
Yeah, the electric makes more sense because canards are critical to center of gravity placement, and with an electric, you don't change the center of gravity at all.
Interesting.
Pretty cool.
Now you notice how much bigger the canard elevator is on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned my lesson now. But if I were to put a propeller out in front of the canard and blast over the elevator, I could make the elevator smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Besides, it'll twist a lot of minds.
That is interesting looking.
But now, if you put the motors and stuff out in front of the canard, are you going to be able to get your balance?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can do the total of the sum, you know, and get everything to balance. I mean, you have to design the airplane a little differently. But yeah, you can definitely get the balance where you want it. You just have to do the total of the sum of the moments, right? Total of the sum of the moments have to equal 0, right, Doran?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. And then Robbie can.
It's for the same reason which canard planes, they have the motor behind. You're gonna see the wings swept back quite a bit.
Right. There you go.
And canard planes, they have the motor in the front. They have the wings swept forward because they want to move the center pressure forward.
Right.
To match the center of gravity. And there are actually calculators out there that will you can punch in the numbers and they're gonna give you, well, this is where the C or CG should be, and deal with that.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you how I know that is that there was a number of straight wing canards with twin booms in the same configuration as that first one I showed you, or the second one I showed you, with straight wings, and they didn't work. They porpoised all the way through level flight because it would vacillate back between trying to fly up the center of gravity and the center of pressure, and it would porpoise through level flight.
Yes.
But when you sweep the wings forward, you're putting the center of pressure and the center of gravity closer together, and you don't get that.
Yes.
Burt Ryan was the gentleman who really came out with the canard configuration airplanes.
Burt Rutan.
Yeah, okay, Burt Rutan. Excuse me.
And I talked to Burt at length about this airplane before I built it.
Yeah, I mean, some of his designs and everything. I mean, I've seen some full scale canard planes come into airports here in the Omaha metro area. I'm like, all right, that is different. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's bizarre looking, but it's practical.
Yeah.
And the idea behind the canard is the canard will stall before the main wing will stall.
Absolutely. And you can't stall the whole airplane because its canard will stall before the wing stalls. Exactly right.
Then again, answer this question. How did Bob Denver crash?
Bob Denver? You mean John Denver?
John Denver ran out of fuel.
It was a fuel switch confusion thing.
There are differing reports on that, how he crashed.
Yeah, what I heard was that the previous owner had reconfigured the position of the fuel tank switch, and he got some kind of confusion anyway, didn't get it switched over and ran out of gas.
And the story I heard was they were servicing the airplane, had the canards off. When they put them back on, they didn't put the circlips on to hold the canards on, and the canards came off, and the thing did a yard dart into the ocean.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I seen something on there. They wondered if he had a heart attack, or, you know, they were going through a whole bunch of different scenarios. Why?
Either way, he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody, Mike Lunke posted that Doc Holliday's got a 35 size canard posted on Stunthangar. Mike is off video, by the way, because his batteries ran out.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody ever seen Doc Holliday's canard?
Yep.
He's going to have to get one of them glow phones. Instead of a battery operated phone, you get one that runs on
yeah, just pour a little alcohol in it and give it a rip.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm tired. I'm gonna crash.
All right.
Okay.
Take it. Like the F-14, it's almost done. Not quite.
He's been working like hell on that thing. Looking good there, Jared.
Highly technical modeling over there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say goodnight.
Yeah.
Good night, guys.
Yeah, man.
I have not had much sleep in the past 2 days after driving from Omaha down to the Ozarks and back. 18 hours of driving straight.
Oh, mercy. Yeah.
Wow.
Get you some,
Well,
get you some
okay.
rest, man.
Well, okay. Now I got you beat. I drove 3,000 miles in straight through in 49 hours, and then I drove 3,000 miles back a week later.
Wow, man, that's amazing, Bob.
How many pots of coffee?
A lot of coffee.
I tell you, he either took coffee, broke them in half, and stuck them in his eyes to keep them open. There.
It was unbelievable.
Now, he actually slept all the way home on the flight back.
That's true.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a lot low on sleep too, and I got a big week coming up. This is when I get my new leg, so
All right.
I'm looking forward to that. Sort of. I'm looking forward to the end product. Let's say that.
Yeah. Just remind the guy that you want your new leg the same length as your other leg. So
I'll be sure and mention that. Yeah. But,
the same color as well.
actually, they did measure me for equality in length the other day, and
We'll call on you when we need somebody for an ass kicking contest. Hey, we got just a guy for this contest.
what day do you have it done, Rusty?
Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving.
Oh, no kidding.
I got to start a pre-op routine tomorrow, and so this is my last normal day before I'm prepping.
How long will you be in the hospital for?
Say what? Oh, I don't know. They seem to think only a couple of days, but with all of my strange underlying stuff, there's no telling. I'm guessing Friday is when I'll be released, late Friday.
Well, blessings on all of it, my friend.
Yeah, man.
Are you going to try to hold the Stunthangar thing here next Friday night, or?
I will probably no, I don't know. We'll see about that, but I'll be here Monday night. Okay, so
right.
Then it'll be a short window because with the holiday change in schedule, I got dialysis at 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, so we probably cut off here a little early Monday. But
in case any of you guys are in the Stockertown area, which I doubt you will be, I'm holding my first open mic this weekend. I'm hosting my first open mic. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, is that anybody recording that?
Yeah, we're going to have a friend of mine going to do the whole thing. And we have Chip Murgott, who's was discovered by Bonnie Raitt. He plays with Livingston Taylor, James Taylor's brother.
Did you say Buddy Ray? Really, the amazing Buddy Ray?
Chip Murgott, and man, he's going to be our feature performer. So.
Yeah. Well, Buddy's died, didn't he?
Who?
You said Buddy Ray, didn't you? Not a minute ago.
No. Bonnie Raitt.
Oh, Bonnie Ray. Oh, I thought you said Buddy Ray. The amazing Buddy Ray. Anyway. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and thank everybody for coming and visiting. It had a great conversation tonight, and I appreciate you YouTubers over there. Y'all did good on yourselves over there, and so we'll see you Monday. And after that, we'll play it by ear. Somebody might host while I'm not here. And hopefully that won't be too many nights anyway. But thanks, everybody. And y'all have a great weekend. And we'll see you Monday night for a little while.
God bless, Rusty.
All right. Thanks. All right. Good night, everybody.
We'll see you Monday, Rusty.
Sure thing.